Hello, everyone, and thank you for watching the live look-in of episode number 93. Number 94.
You're on the wrong screen.
It's too late. We're going with it.
Oh, you got the Give Kids a World shirt.
I think Steven just sent those out then.
Yeah.
Dang. All right. Well, you got two, I guess. We sent. It's all right. You can keep it. You weren't really supposed to get both, but that's it works in your favor. Steven never told me he was sending them, so I didn't. I just sent the Kosher Talk shirts too, like 2 days ago. Dang, dang, dang. I asked him, hey, when you send those out, will you let me know? Like 3 weeks ago.
Well, actually, he got the Vekoma hat. He said, not the.
And the Give Kids the World shirt. He said I got both.
Right. He didn't get a Coaster Talk shirt.
No. The Kosher Talk shirts are going to other people. Those are the people that were supposed to get the Give Kids the World shirts. So I guess I gave him. I don't know. Someone got the wrong address because I gave him the right address. Oh no, I know. I remember what it was. My mom accidentally. She for some reason wanted to ship out these. She was like, I feel more comfortable if I do it. So she sent out the Vekoma hat and she sent it to the wrong. Pierce wasn't supposed to get the Vekoma hat. He was supposed to get the Give Kids the World shirt. Like he claimed the shirt, and then my mom sent the hat to him too. So it's fine. You get two prizes. You're lucky winner. Oh man, that's all right. You get two cool stuff.
You're much likely. Oh my God! I just watched today. Like, this is why anybody that was trying to reach me today. I was absorbed in this documentary called McMillions. Holy crap!
It's about
You
McDonald's.
know the Monopoly? Yeah, you know the Monopoly game.
Yeah.
Like, so there were all these rumblings like back in the late 90s, early 2000s of like the Monopoly game was a scam. There was no way you could win it. But like nobody ever really knew what it was. Oh my god. The crap that went on with this game, like this guy defrauded McDonald's and all these people. He was like giving like he basically I don't I don't know if you'd call it theft, but like he basically stole like millions and millions of dollars in prizes from McDonald's. Like there was 6 episodes, each was an hour. I watched the first episode and I'm like, holy crap, this is nuts. And there's 5 more episodes to go. Like, how much went wrong with this Monopoly game? So
Can you
the
type in? I
moral of the
think it would be
story is
better if you typed in.
Coaster Talk
Oh,
podcasts. Coaster Talk podcast contests are better than Monopoly at McDonald's. That's the moral of the story.
can you type up what you think we should like? What it all should be? I think you'd be better at doing that this time. Like I gave the idea, but you can. I feel like uh, you could just type it out better. It'll be the weekly poll too. That'll be more of a discussion poll than just a yes or no this week. It'll be like explain why or why not, or your opinion on why that happens, or could be either or. I guess that we'll talk about it. So I guess next week, if we talk about it now, we can't talk about it next week. I guess we'll talk about everyone else's opinions and just kind of agree with theirs or disagree or whatever. Ooh. So guys, this week, part of the topic of the show is talking about
To answer your question, James is going again for Halloween. I'm gonna wait for Christmas.
I'll be going this weekend and a weekend later this year, and then November 7th I just got the Saturday because
You're going this weekend?
I am. I got a reservation for Sunday night that I barely, that was the only one at first, that was the only one I thought they was going to be able to do, but then they extended it to October 30th and then they extended it to November 7th. So now I'm able to go. So yes. Ooh, John. Ooh. Gosh dang, I didn't mean to write a paragraph.
Does that work for you?
That was well enough. I'm just seeing Disca.
Hi, Bam. And I'm okay, proper. Oh wait, you went to. Wait, this week was. Oh, okay. Pull for next week.
That'll be like that kind of.
How do we? How do we? How do we want to word that?
I know, that's why I wanted to make it short. That could be it.
Actually,
you-
I should.
You don't really need to say or are they the same thing, because if you say is there a difference, that kind of asks that already. Yeah, that's.
Wait, what just happened? Oh, I was trying to. All right, go ahead, edit it, whatever. I was trying to edit it.
Just you're on the right track there. There you go.
Tempesta. Oh, when you're going up, the rain comes straight down on you. Don't ride Superman in the rain. I've done that. It hurts. It hurts.
What Superman?
Well, it was Darien Lake, but same as Six Flags America.
So Ride of Steel. Okay.
And
Gotcha.
yeah, Ride of Steel. I can only imagine Top Throw Dragster would be extremely painful. Actually, I rode I-305 in the rain. That was not a comfortable ride either.
I believe I did ride Top of the Dragster in the rain. I rode Millennium Force in the rain. For sure. I think I might have rode Top of the Dragster in the rain too.
Millennium Force isn't as bad because it's not sustained. But like I-305 and Superman Ride of Steel, those are both sustained high speeds.
I feel like Millennium Force is pretty sustained speed throughout the entire ride.
No, well, but there are hills, so it's slowing down some. It doesn't maintain its speed. Like I-305 and Superman Ride of Steel are like the same. Like they're both extremely low to the ground. After
Superman has a lot of airtime hills too. It's like 4 or 5, like the same amount as Millennium
but
Force.
they're all like 3 feet tall. No, well, the second one's not.
They have 2 huge camelbacks on that ride.
The whole ride is a straight track. I mean,
in Millennium Force, you have those giant bank turns, smacking yourself in the face.
Yeah, but those are higher off the ground.
Yeah, but they're high paced turns, so they're smacking you in the face.
Right, but you're not going the full like 80, 90 miles an hour in those.
You're probably
Formula Rosa, you have to actually wear goggles in just dry, like even if it's not raining. Actually, does it even rain there? It's the desert.
It probably rains like one day of the
year. But you actually have to wear goggles to ride that ride.
Yep, the iconic Rob Alvey POV. That's the only one. Yeah. All right, pretty much ready to start.
Yeah, except I need to do audio test.
Of course.
No, actually, I think it's everybody in the entire train needs to wear goggles.
Yeah, I think the speed's so high they don't want objects flying, like insects or debris, or especially sand too. Yeah.
All right,
hi, my name is.
My audio's returned to like not being loud, so James, you're probably gonna have to adjust this again.
And then I'll get yelled at. I'm not adjusting anything anymore.
And then you get yelled at. Testing.
James messed with some stuff. James, why did you mess with some stuff?
Actually, maybe I think that should be good there. Maybe. Am I loud to everybody in the?
I just
live
turned you
stream?
down. I turned you down a little bit. I need to turn myself
Oh.
down a little bit too. There we go. I think that's like talk again.
Talk again. I'm talking again.
I'm talking again too.
Clip-
For some reason, mine keeps going in the
clip a
red.
little bit.
Hey, what's up,
What's that?
guys? Hey, 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 hey. There we go. That's probably pretty good. Hey. All right, yeah.
Hey, 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 hey.
What you gonna say?
Goodbye. Yeah, I'm kind of getting there too. That's not good.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Coaster Talk Podcast.
Hey,
Wow, that's really
hey.
loud.
That was loud. Let's cancel James.
Hello, everybody, and
Barber.
welcome to Kosher Talk Podcast. My name is James Barber, and I'm sitting here with my good
No, it's
old
You're
doodly
lying.
Bob.
I'm James Barber. Dang it.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Kosher. I know. I like
Shut
how
up,
we do
Bob.
that. We do the intro
Bob,
goes.
you don't know what you're talking about, Bob.
I like how the intro goes. I'm James Barber, and I'm Bob Mertz, and then we go. Hi, I'm James Barber, and I'm Bob Mertz. Like we
I
just did.
know. It's
But
whatever.
You gotta reintroduce yourselves, I guess.
Yeah, right. Because we're not in the intro anymore.
Yeah, we are.
Where do you? Huh? Well, we're. No, wait. We're in the. We're not in the intro to the show. We're in the intro to the episode.
What do you mean?
When we say that, you say, I'm James Barber, and I say, I'm Bob Mertz. We're in the intro to the episode, not the intro to the show.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to switch back to digital, I think. Hold on. What? Why? See, it got. My waveform looks weird all the time. Is this loud?
I had
Testing,
it turned down.
testing. I don't know. Testing.
Testing. Hi, my name is James Barber.
Emergency broadcast.
I'm sitting here with Bob K. Mertz today. Yeah, my name is James. Yeah, and I think so. I think I agree with you, Bob. Oh, no, I think you're an idiot, Bob. No, you're wrong. Oh, no, I think you're an idiot, Bob. No,
we're we both sing so well, especially me. All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I give you Bob K. Mertz. Dun, 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 na, 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 na. Ladies and gentlemen, I can see
There's something wrong with you.
I can see you in like a
There's
suit
something
coming down with
seriously
like a
wrong
rock,
with you.
coming down the stairs with like a cane, doing like little rockets. Start spreading. Ladies and gentlemen,
like-
boys and girls.
Me like young Frankenstein. I'm putting on the Ritz.
Yeah, exactly.
Put
on the
Ritz.
That's one of the greatest movies of all time.
We don't know. We never know what's going on right now.
Hey, you come for this. You signed up for this.
Yeah, this is the show you come for.
Isn't this what you wanted? Are you proud of what you've done?
All right. I think this audio level will work.
Let me check. Hey, what's going on? James Barber here. My name is James Barber, and I'm the host of Coaster Talk Podcast. So is Bob K. Mertz, and so is my mom, and so is my dog, and so is my door over there, and so is this Curse of Dark Castle block here, and so is this computer. Testing the
My door
mics.
too. And my
Get loud.
thermostat.
It sucks. It's really loud at some points. It's really quiet too.
So this is the weird thing. Like my mic clips at the top. Like it
Your
goes
mic
into the
clips at
red,
the
but
top.
it doesn't.
Why does it clip at
on
the top,
right.
Bob?
No, that's not what I'm talking about. But like the waveform doesn't clip, so I don't understand. Like I don't know.
And no, I don't want any
I don't
old
know. I
beach.
think this,
I do not want any old Busch Gardens maps. I have probably, I would assume, more than you do. I have ones from like 2013, so I'm good. I have some very old Busch Gardens maps, and I have like 4,000 of them because I still collect maps, but I used to just grab like
4,000. Where do you keep them?
I have a, I have like a, 1 second. This will take very quick, but I just want to show you guys this because I just reorganized my map collection.
Yeah, see, here's the problem. James does not get what I was saying. He said 4,000. I was calling out his exaggeration, and he completely missed my sarcasm there.
Look at this thing. This is my map. I can't hear you guys, but this is my map collection right here.
I mean,
I'm gonna show Bob first, and then I'll show you guys.
it's a lot of maps, but I'm calling bullshit on the 4,000.
This is not all Busch Gardens maps, but I have a bunch. I mean, all of like the middle section is Busch Gardens maps, so I'd say it's about 500 or 600 maps of Busch Gardens.
He's bad at math. 400, 500, 600, still less than 4,000.
Yeah, I used to pick up like 100 too, like in the same day for some reason. It doesn't make any sense why, because no one needs that many maps. I don't need none of these maps I use. I just look at them like every year or so. I look at them. I go back and look at them. I only needed like one. I was talking about my total map collection. I probably have like 4,000.
There is no way there's 4,000 in that envelope.
You want to bet? I'll count them.
And for the first part of the podcast,
I will
James
count
counts
them.
as maps.
I will 100%. I will guarantee there's at least over 5,000. Might be an there might be 1,000, 2,000 maybe.
You said 4,000. You said you had 4,000 Busch Garden maps.
No, I said I have 4,000 maps, but I was talking about maps in general, my collection.
Either way, you exaggerated, and I called you out on your exaggeration. You're like, no, look at this.
All right. I see how it is, Bob. Next time you ever exaggerate anything, if you say that a ticket is $65 and it's $55, you're getting called out.
But it was $65 like 2 days ago.
Semantics, Bob. That's the semantics of it all. I mean, I swear to God, I'll count those maps. I know I wouldn't be surprised if I own about 4,000 Busch Gardens maps, which I don't know if I actually said on the record. I don't know if I actually said that, but I would not be surprised if there's at least 600 or 700 just Busch Gardens maps in there alone.
That's still less than 4,000.
I know, but I think I said 4,000 maps. I'm gonna screw it. Screw the podcast.
Just fun to
I'm counting these maps. I'm really like this close to doing it.
I know, that's what scares me.
Just to prove I'm right.
All right. We have a rundown. It looks like a rundown anyway.
I'm going to test my audio again. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Coaster Talk Podcast. My name is James Barber, and this week, Bob is Bob, and I am James.
I am Bob.
Bob is Bob. I like that it does that.
And
hey, what's going on, guys? My name is James Barber, and I'm
amazing.
testing the audio for this week's episode of Coaster Talk Podcast, episode number 93 of the show.
This stuff is the bomb.
You know what else is the bomb, Bob?
Like, the bomb?
Nuclear bombs. They're the bomb.
Yes. Sheets Pop Cherry Vanilla. I'm telling you. Go get some now. No, they did not pay for this. Although, Sheets, if you're watching, feel free.
Antimatter bombs are the bombs. Thermobaric bombs are the bombs. Nuclear fission bombs are the bomb. Compressed gas bombs are the bomb.
All right.
This is what not to do when you're at TSA. Just by the way, guys. Talk about bombs. What if you just walked up to a guy at TSA and you're just like, "Hey, let's talk about bombs." How dumb would you have to be?
You're lagged again.
I'm not lagged again. You're lagged again.
Oh, you're lagged again.
All right, let's do this episode.
What is?
That's a good idea, right? Maybe do the podcast. That is what we're here for.
What?
I said I think it would be a good idea to record the podcast since that is what we're here for.
What? Wait, we're podcast? We're doing a podcast?
Are we?
Why didn't anybody tell me?
I thought we were just doing a live webcast of how stupid we are.
Well, that's kind of it's kind of synonymous. All right.
All right.
Bomb talk.
Bomb Talk Radio. Your source
James and I will never fly again.
for everything bombs. Yeah, we just get, you know how you get all those copyright notices? We just get a message from YouTube saying TSA has now banned you from all travel through.
I don't know. Actually, I haven't. No, last night I heard some jets flying around. I don't know if it was decoy. It probably was. Probably shouldn't be talking about this on the stream though. Give away my location.
You've already said
guess
where
it's
you
public
live.
information.
You've
so-
literally said where you live like multiple times.
No. I meant like. Well, I guess it's kind of all of Martinsburg. So
Yeah. Pam, how dare you, Pam? How dare you? And I live in Richmond, Virginia. I've said that multiple times, but it's a big city, so
Yep.
no one will be able to figure it out.
they all look like. They all look like normal planes in the air right now above me.
What if they look like unnormal planes? That'd be kind of scary. I said, what if they look like unnormal planes? What would you do then?
Dude, one time I found a balloon. There was literally a balloon ground. I was like, what the? What is this thing? It literally was. It was from the Balloon Project, that like company that's like trying to do like. Well, actually, I guess they do.
Is it a
like,
blimp
hey,
or like a
internet-
hot air balloon?
No, it's like not a hot air balloon. It's like a kind of a weather balloon type thing.
Oh, okay.
But they launch basically it's basically like cell spots and Wi-Fi access points. They putting these balloons in like they just like fly them around, but like it was weird because it was like transponding and my thing was like picking it up. But it like literally was an icon of like a balloon, and like there's literally a balloon floating. I'm like, what the hell is this thing?
You see what the roller coaster museum tweeted to Busch Gardens? I like that.
Yes.
You did?
Wait, the big bad wolf thing?
Yeah.
I saw the picture posted on Reddit.
I said, okay, I really need to focus my brain. We need to. Well, we're glad to see you've escaped the forest. Please lift up on your safety harness, which is so true. I do that a lot. Busch Gardens needs to be getting their Twitter game up a little bit in their social media game.
Did you say they seem to be or they should be?
They seem to be. Aww.
Oh my god. There's a dog dressed as a Hershey's Kiss and another dog dressed as the Chick-fil-A cow. Retweeting that. Check out my Twitter stream if you want to see that. Coaster Talk Bob.
All right, let's get to the show.
I don't.
3, 2, 1.
Wait, I'm trying to find this. You're not allowed to count. That's my job. I'm too far. All right. Forget that. We'll figure it out later. All right. Let's we came here to do a podcast. Let's do it. Are you ready? Apparently not.
1 second. Someone I know's dog might be passing away, so I need to give them a little bit of a condolence real quick.
Well, that's not how do you respond to that?
I know. I didn't want to say. That's why I said it because I'm like, he can't make this funny or a joke or sarcastic.
No, that's the thing. I was like, okay, now we're just quiet. No silence. I don't know.
Okay, I thought you were trying to because if I hadn't said that, you would have been like, oh yeah, now wait, we just gotta wait on him. I'm like, wait. I was like,
No, I was just like that's the way to kill the mood. Okay, we're having all this fun. No, just hold on a second while my friend's dog dies.
in his arms right now.
I'm sorry. What the hell, man?
Oh my god!
Nobody will turn into Kentucky
I'm
Kingdom
trying to listen
Twitter.
to you and type. So I just said, I understand the predicament you're in. I've lost 2 this year, and it's awesome. When I was trying to put awful. I was trying to put awful, and I put awesome. It's awesome! Woo! Our animals are dying! Oh my god.
Oh my god. We are going to get canceled if we keep this up.
No, come on.
No, I'm kidding. It was just a joke.
There's a lot more cruder podcasts than we. We don't even do our crude stuff on air either.
No. Well, we're kind of on air.
Yeah, we're on air for 4 people though. We get a lot more listeners than the actual podcast though. That would. I don't know how they'd respond to this side of us.
I don't know. It'd be interesting.
That's why I want to do an off-topic show. We should just do an off-topic episode one week. That there's not a lot of news or something.
Okay.
Maybe. Oh, now that I think about it, that could have been.
I'll talk about my addiction to Sheets Pop. Cherry vanilla.
Wow, I could not have butchered that spelling anymore. Actually, no, I just need to add a P. That's not a lie.
Have you ever tried this stuff? Seriously? Have you
Me?
tried cherry vanilla?
I don't drink soda, so.
What? Oh my god. I'm not talking to you ever again.
Bob.
It's going to be a pretty quiet podcast. Water. I'd die if I drank just water.
You wouldn't.
I'd be miserable. I could tell you that. Has anybody had cherry vanilla Sheets Pop? Because if not, you need to go to Sheets and get some because it's really, really good. Really, really good. And I keep looking at you guys over here, even though the camera's over here. So when I look this way, I'm kind of looking at the live stream. So if it seems weird when I look, yeah. All right. I feel like I'm the only person here. Anybody alive?
No, I just died.
Onion 287. Except it is technically a giga because the drop is 300.
I know. All right, let's go. We can go now.
Yes, Don't mess up that Z again, Pam. It's blasphemy.
Everybody was like, "Screw these guys, we're out." He talked about a dying dog.
I know. And look, they're all back now. What? Seriously, like everybody disappeared from the chat for like a minute or two, and then like they're all back. It's kind of weird. All right. Anyway, let's record this.
All right.
You ready?
Yep.
3, 2.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Coaster Talk Podcast. This is episode number 94 of the show. It is October 18th, 2020, which is actually my birthday, now that I think about it. You guys are listening to this episode of my birthday. I'm James Barber.
And I'm Bob Mertz, and James had to think about his birthday. That's kind of interesting.
It's strange.
forget
I
this
didn't
about
actually
normal.
realize how close it was. I'm honestly just now
Well,
thinking about that. It's in like 3 days. We record the show again on Thursday nights at 9 o'clock. If you guys want to ever join us, we do a live look in. I do a little live stream so you guys can see the uncensored and fun side of us. We get kind of crazy.
fun in quotes. Quote fun. Unquote.
Fun. As fun as two coaster enthusiasts can be, right?
Yeah, especially like an old one and a young one. It's entertaining
It
in
is
itself.
definitely entertaining, yeah.
And how we know the difference is you talk about your birthday and I just ignore that such a thing exists.
Yeah, birthdays just aren't a thing to you. Yeah, there's not a thing.
Right.
Birthday.
It's like whatever.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
What are we talking about?
That's like that every like, well, I don't know what it is in West Virginia, but that's like every like 7 years or 10 years in Virginia. Like that's the day that your driver's license expires. That's what that is.
That's what it is. That's that they gauge it with that. Everything, and then there's no family celebration or recognition of
Right.
how old you are.
It's like
Just
oh,
for
crap,
DMV.
It's that year.
It's
and
just
my-
invented for
I gotta
DMV.
renew my driver's license.
Yeah, DMV just invented
Actually, I
that
don't-
year and that day just for you, just for your
Yes,
driver's license.
exactly.
All right. Well, what are we talking about? Let's talk about some coaster news. You're here for Coaster Talk Podcast. Let's talk about some of that good stuff. We got Dragon Slayer, which we discussed quite a bit in a couple of episodes ago. I believe, like, not a couple, maybe even like 5 or 6. We were going through a couple of spurts where we're talking about Dragon Slayer, what it was going to be. We're speculating, SNS free spin. There were some discussions on this ride and everything it would entail. It is now confirmed, if you don't know, if you haven't been paying attention to that as much, to be a 40 free spin. And it is now vertical at Adventureland. And
That's a good way to confirm it.
that is a good way to confirm it. Yeah. That's pretty much the best way to confirm it. Yeah. It's red and black, or red and gray, excuse me, which I think is interesting because this is like, I believe that I can remember, at least in the U.S., I think it is the only 40 free spin that's not at a Six Flags park by SNS as well. So this is like not the normal color scheme of yellow and black and like the purple and
Yeah.
green. I can't think. There might be.
Huh. That's actually interesting. So, like, in Kings Island might be, or King's Dominion might be getting one. Like,
Yeah. Well, as of now, yes, it is the only 40 free spin not at a Six Flags park that I U.S. at least. I think there are a couple. I think Japan. I think there's a couple throughout maybe Europe, but in the U.S. I think this is the only non-Six Flags free spin.
well, that's yeah. Well, are there any Six Flags in existence outside the U.S. currently?
There are not.
Mexico, I guess, but not North America. That's still kind of North America. I mean, well, no, that is North America.
We're lagging. We just lagged a whole lot.
I know, but it didn't matter because we were going and like.
No, it did matter, Bob. I answered you like 10 seconds ago, and then you started talking again. I'm like, that would have gotten really confusing in post-production.
Oh. All right, what are we doing? Starting over? Or...
Free spin. Do you think we should just start over the whole show?
It's probably easier than trying to figure out where we started lagging at,
All right.
since we're only like a few minutes in.
All right, let's do it again. I'm actually curious if it is the first 40 free spin outside of Six Flags Park. I think it is.
Well, that's why God invented RCDB, or AKA Dwayne.
Yep, it is. It's the only one. There's Six Flags Mexico, Six Flags New England, Six Flags Over Texas, Six Flags Great America, Great Adventure, Discovery Kingdom, Fiesta Texas, and the one at Adventurelands. But I'm just going to pretend like I just thought about that on the show again. All right, you ready?
Motion Gate. Where's
That's right next to, guess what park that's next to?
I don't know.
Bollywood.
Oh,
Oh man,
I guess that's international as well.
that's Dubai.
Nagashima Spa Land.
Yeah,
Might
I
go
knew one in
there.
Japan. I knew they had it.
13 roller coasters in Nagashima Spa. Wait, oh, that's right. They still have a operating pipeline. Oh, wait, that's not. Yeah, that is. Oh, I want to ride one of those so bad.
All right, let's go.
Oh, that's not the one. Oh.
Are you ready?
Yeah, hold on. All right, ready? 3, 2.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Coaster Talk Podcast. This is episode number 94 of the show. It's October 18th. It's my birthday, actually, now that I think about it. You guys are listening to this on my birthday. I'm James Barber.
And I'm Bob Mertz. And it seems like James can't remember his birthday. I didn't realize you were that old.
I am just now realizing. I'm just now realizing how close we are to my birthday. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's proof that you're young and I'm old. You remember your birthdays, and I'm just like, you talk about them, and I'm like, yeah, whatever. It's just another day.
Just another
in Virginia,
day.
That was like every 7 or 10 years or whatever it was. I had to like go renew my license. That's what that meant.
DMV just created that special day just for you.
Exactly. That's what that
randomly picked that date, and they're like, "That's the day that you were born, I guess." All right.
That's exactly it.
All right. Well,
let's talk about some coasters.
Yeah, that's what you guys are here for. We're your source for everything roller coasters. And first story of this week's show is that Dragon Flyer, which is a roller coaster that we've talked about quite a bit on the show. We talked about it.
Well, we did talk about Dragon Flyer, but right now we're going to talk about Dragon Slayer.
Excuse me. Dragon Slayer at Adventureland in Iowa, yes. It just now opened up, went vertical. We talked about it a couple, I believe, maybe like 5 or 6 shows ago when this thing was still being speculated about. I don't know. All the shows kind of blend together. Regardless, we talked about this thing when it was...
That was at the beginning of the year, wasn't it?
No, I think that was earlier. I honestly, Bob, 2020 has been such a blur.
It's
crazy to me. Like, I look at the episodes that we've done since, and I'm like, wait a second, didn't we just do this episode? And it's like episode number 50 or 60, and I'm like, I feel like me and Bob just sat down and recorded the show, and now it's like, I swear it's crazy. So whenever we did it, we talked about Dragon Slayer, and we talked about what it might be, because some people were debating on whether it would be a 40 free spin or not. And we discussed, what kind of footprint it was going to be filling and what other rides and stuff. So we talked about and speculated what this plot of land and what this park would be getting. And now that we know it's a 40 free spin, it has now gone vertical. And yeah, it's pretty cool to see.
It's weird seeing it with the I-232 color scheme.
Yeah, it's sporting a red and gray color scheme, which is funny because this is the first, I believe, the first SNS 40 free spin non-Six Flags in North America, in the U.S. In North America, actually, because I think, I don't think any other country in the U.S. or U.S., Canada, or Mexico has one either. So this is the first non-Six Flags one. So this is the first time we're seeing a color scheme that's not purple and green or yellow and black, which is the Batman and the Jokers.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because King's Dominion is allegedly getting one.
Yeah. Not allegedly. We pretty much know.
Well, yeah, it seems like it. I mean,
we see the track.
I mean, let's think of where we've been with King's Dominion before.
Okay,
Like,
yeah. They
there's
just
no way they're going
returned
to
all
tear.
the track, right? They're just like,
There's,
screw this
there's
ride.
no way they're going to tear. They're not going to tear down Volcano, James. There's no way they would do such a thing.
Yep, they just got the track, put it in the parking lot, and they're like, you know what? We're not really feeling it. SNS, take it back. Oh, that would be good.
I mean, I feel like I've been through so many emotions with King's Dominion that it wouldn't surprise me.
Nothing will surprise you anymore. Nothing. Yep.
No,
I mean,
no.
honestly, I wouldn't be too shocked either. Like, I agree. It's like King's Dominion can pretty much do anything at this point, and I would be like, it's King's Dominion. Like, I would just say that. That would just be my automatic response. Yeah.
Exactly.
But yeah, Dragon Slayer is. I think there's one in Japan, there's one in Dubai. So this is the first non-Six Flags one. So that's interesting. That's an interesting point that this ride is filling. It's a position that this ride is filling. And I don't. Now that I think about it, no one else has really been, or that I've heard of, discussed that. So that is kind of a cool fact about this ride. Yeah, but it is funny, like you stated. It is sporting the Intimidator 305, or not Intimidator 305, Intimidator at Carowinds color scheme.
Yes, which I actually like. I've always kind of liked I-232's
I do
color
too.
scheme.
It's not
Like,
too
I
like
don't know, it's
bam in your
weird
face,
one,
but it's just a nice like background.
yeah, I don't know.
It's not like vibrant. It's not it doesn't pop, but it definitely isn't like bland either. It's just like a nice subtle scheme.
It's not like
definitely.
McDonald's colors.
No, it is not. It is not. It's not like Fury or Hydra or anything like that either, where they're like very vibrant and just neon colors and things of that nature either. So it's a nice color scheme they got.
I mean, like, there's some bright colored coasters that I really enjoy.
Oh yeah, no, I agree.
I really like Impulse's color scheme. Like, it seems like a weird one, but I love it. I love that color scheme.
I don't think it's bad. I think it's a good one. Yeah, I don't think it's spectacular, but it's definitely good.
I think it's spectacular.
It's my favorite color scheme. Oh god, we got to rank our favorite color schemes now, right?
Man, that would be.
That would be an interesting one, actually. Now that I think about it, now that I say that as a joke, actually, and now I'm actually thinking about it seriously. Maybe that's something we do.
This is how Coaster Talk is born. We joke about stuff, and all of a sudden we start thinking, "Wait, no, that's not funny anymore. It's serious."
It's not a bad idea. It's not, but yes, that's what's going on with Adventureland and their new 40 free spin. Looks like it's all set. It should be ready to open for 2021, given that a pandemic doesn't happen or anything.
It could open before Iron Gwazi.
Yeah, it could. It could.
That was just a shot to all you RMC fanboys. I'll duck now.
And RMC's helping fabricate the track for this because they do all the track work for this show.
That's true.
So
I didn't even think about that.
this RMC is opening before the other RMC. All right. Well, we talked about something else on a couple weeks ago's show. We talked about Six Flags Over Texas and their former president, and now we know of the replacement for him. So Steve Martindale was the former president. We talked about, I believe, how there were some interesting and controversial views on him and his position as the park president. So again, if you want to re-listen to that show, it's a couple of weeks back, I believe, where we talked about that. And now we know that the replacement for him is going to be Ron McKenzie. This is the Texas native and a Six Flags veteran, as the press release states. He was the former, marketing director at the park of Six Flags Park of Six Flags Fiesta Texas.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's a native to the Six Flags chain and to Texas.
He started at Six Flags Fiesta Texas in 1993.
Yeah.
So he's been there.
He's been there for quite a while. So this is
interesting. The press release actually does mention Steve Martindale. I think this is the first acknowledgement they have, and it actually says he retired.
I'm still a little curious to see if if they pushed him to the retirement or what.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, yeah. He retired. Unquote.
He retired. Yeah, he retired, as we know of. So yeah, I'm confident I will make a immediate positive impact as we continue our work to emerge stronger than ever. So, I mean, I know Six Flags does a lot. I feel like Six Flags is probably the most in terms, or at least the most recognizable chain in terms of they seem to move around a lot with their personnel and their staff. I feel like every off season there's at least 2 or 3 switches at the park. So I mean, I don't know if this is too big of a change or if this is going to really alter anything too drastically, or if any Six Flags Over Texas frequent visitors or pass holders are like, oh yeah, this is great. But it is news, and it is I definitely think he's definitely not going to be a negative impact to the park. For so long.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, it's Six Flags. I it's like it's kind of weird how like you mentioned, Six Flags kind of moves people around a lot, and
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
with Cedar Fair, it's like, oh, this is news. Like, how's this going to change things? Six Flags is like,
Even
yeah,
SeaWorld, I feel like
so it's
when
another
people
year.
change, it's pretty drastic.
Yes, yeah, but SeaWorld,
SeaWorld's
SeaWorld just
starting to do it
has,
more now. It seems like in the past year or two, they start to do it more. But
but a lot of it, I think a lot of it is because there's people that are jumping ship from SeaWorld. Like the CEOs have been like, I think there's just I think
yeah,
there's incompatibilities with management at SeaWorld. And I think there's a lot of people that are like getting into positions and they're like, wait, no, I don't want to deal with this crap. And
yeah,
like I really think that's what's going
yeah,
on
yeah.
at
I'm sure.
SeaWorld.
I'm sure.
Six Flags is like, oh, if we rotate ideas around, I think they kind of take more of that approach, maybe.
Maybe,
Um,
yeah. Because this guy did work under at Six Flags at Fiesta Texas. He worked under Jeffrey Siebert, who's a fantastic park president for Six Flags Fiesta Texas. Fantastic. I met him. He was awesome, and the park is so well maintained. So I mean, he's an awesome dude too. So awesome dude. um,
that's who you want for a leader. You want a
isn't
good
that the
dude.
title that you get when you're a Six Flags Fiesta Texas park president? Dude, that's it. That's the title, dude.
Shoot.
Yeah. You work all your life and then you get called dude by some kid on a podcast. All right. Well, yeah, that's what's going on with Six Flags Over Texas, and kind of an interesting story now because I don't know
But I
how.
don't think this is going to surprise people that have been paying
No, it's not
attention.
surprising, but it is interesting because again, I don't really know how. We kind of discussed this pre show, me and Bob. I don't know, but I'll run down it real quick. So, Fun Spot America is a small a small. I don't even. It's not a family entertainment. It is. It's just like a small park because they don't classify themselves as FEC because they have rides and stuff outdoors, more rides and stuff outdoors than FECs do. So they've been put on notice now 3 times in the past couple of months after COVID-19 strike teams have found that their guests haven't been complying and haven't been wearing masks while at the park. Now, a lot of you might go, oh, well, every park's kind of doing that, and which is kind of what my initial response was too. But Bob kind of brought
Yeah.
up an interesting counterpoint to that, which I think is fair, for sure.
Yeah, I think that the difference here is it's kind of been, if you've watched posts of people that, especially at the beginning of the pandemic when FunSpot first opened, posts like trip reports that were posted by people that went to the park were just like they don't care. They just flat out said like FunSpot does not care about masks. They're not even bothering enforcing it. Most of the employees aren't wearing it. And like you had brought up, like you saw people at Hershey and Knoebels that weren't wearing masks, and yes, that's true.
Yeah.
But in both of those cases, when you walk into Hershey or you walk into Knoebels, you're very aware of what your requirements are. Like
Uh huh.
they make it clear you need to have a mask. People like may not follow that, and I actually heard at both parks I've heard employees correcting people and saying you must wear your
Yeah.
mask properly. And I think the thing is, I think that the whole point of this is most parks are making an effort. You're
Mm-hmm.
not going to get everybody. you're always going to have those people that are like, no, I'm not complying.
Yeah.
But I think the issue here, and I think the reason why this is kind of a story, is because they saw, like, these strike teams saw no evidence of anything.
Yeah.
And I think that's where more of this is coming from than just, oh, there were some guests that weren't wearing masks.
Yeah. And that's why I definitely understand that, because I've also heard, I know originally when they opened up, people complaining on Twitter and Reddit and Facebook and Instagram about how they weren't really doing the right procedures and having the right requirements in place for their guests. So yeah, the team found that there were no physical distancing reminders at the entrance, or there was no physical distancing reminders on any of the attractions either. So just not even at the front of the park, not even the very beginning. You know, they didn't even like do it at the front, and then like as you get into the park, it kind of slowly.
Of a pandemic anywhere is kind of the gist of what I'm picking up.
Interesting point too that I see now is that the first strike team visit occurred not just because they decided, hey, let's check out Fun Spot America. There was actually a citizen complaint to the strike team.
Yeah.
And that's why they visited too. So, yeah, they definitely don't seem to be handling it great. But I mean, as of now, it seems that the park's kind of getting off with it and is just kind of getting a slap on the wrist.
Right, and this is where the bigger thing comes in. It's like, you know, some people are like, let's try to get away with this. And then they get a slap on the wrist and they're like, okay, maybe we need to rethink our plan.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's those people that are like, oh, well, we just got a slap on the wrist. Oh, we just got 2 slap on the wrist. They're not doing anything, so why should we bother? And like, it's almost like this is the problem. I don't, you know, people will complain like, oh, why do you have to fine people? It's like, well, because a slap on the wrist doesn't do anything for some people, you know? And then like, if we get to that point, like, it should never have to get to that point, but it's situations like this that cause it to have to get to that point. And I mean, it's disappointing to see. It really is.
So they say that the Orange County strike team's goal is to be educating rather than fining or punishing right now. That's the mayor.
Right now.
Yeah. So,
but
when does that change?
If they continue to, you know, do they continue to fight this? I mean,
yeah. When does that alter? When does that alter and become a mindset?
Probably when they say, okay, these guys aren't listening, we're gonna have to step up our game.
It's been a couple months now.
Like, that's what it's gonna have to come down to.
I mean, it's been 2 months now, though.
It's ridiculous. Yeah, it has. It's because the first visit was what, August 13th, and the third visit was on September 25th.
Yeah.
So and there was another one scheduled, but of course they didn't say the date because they don't want to give them a warning. They don't want to say, hey, we're going to be here on this day.
Set up all your COVID stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. And this was reported by Orlando News 6, I believe.
Yes.
And they said they contacted Fun Spot for a comment, but haven't received anything. So that'll be interesting to hear, see if they reply.
It will be. I would be curious to hear what they're.
I'm doubting it. I'm not anticipating it.
Not at all expecting that to happen, but it would be cool or interesting to hear their take on what's going on. All right, so going to New York now. Going to New York, the state, and talking about what now. I mean, what I realize now, and you know, a lot of you might not agree. A lot of you might think this is not true, but the longest coaster in the world, or in North America, excuse me, just opened up. It's a mountain coaster. It's in, what is it? The mountain resort, I believe, at the new Cliffside Mountain Coaster at Mount Van Hovenberg.
It's in Lake Placid.
Lake Placid, yes. But it's located on Mount Van Hovenberg. So now it clocks in at 7,650 feet long. And that is longer than the Beast, which clocks in at 7,359 feet long. So in my mind now, this is the longest coaster in North America. I know a lot of you might, oh, it's a mountain coaster, it doesn't count, whatever. But I mean, I count them as coasters. I think so. Technically, for me, yes, they're marketing this as the longest mountain coaster, but I think this is the longest coaster period in North America.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I see both sides of that argument. I've actually been on both sides of that argument. Um, it's kind of a tough one. But the fun thing about this is Lake Placid is actually where I believe it was the 1980
Yes.
Olympic Games were at.
Yeah.
That and nearby Whiteface Mountain, which is where the skiing was. I actually was up there at one point skiing. We went on my sister and I and a couple of friends went up for like a week of skiing. It was a blast.
Hmm.
Lake Placid is kind of a cool town, but the interesting thing about this mountain coaster is that it actually follows the bobsled track that was
Yeah. The
actually
1980
used
Olympics. Yeah.
for the 1980 Olympics.
That is very interesting and it's very cool. And actually, the actual trains of the rides themselves are kind of imitating that of a bobsled and of the USA team actually, which is pretty cool. So I mean, interesting stuff there. And again, I think it's a pretty big deal. I mean, honestly, haven't heard too much discussion or talk about this, so you're hearing it here now. I think this is the longest roller coaster in North America, and it's just opened up here at Lake
It's
Placid, New York.
it also made the most expensive roller
Yeah.
coaster in the world.
Yeah.
Um, it started out as $75 to ride this thing, and I think it's only been open like what, a week or so, and the price has already dropped twice. So now it's down to what I think you said it was $55
$55
a ride.
for a driver and $65 for both a driver and a passenger.
Okay, so $55 for one ride. I've been on, well, actually, I've only been on one mountain coaster, but the frustration is like getting stuck behind somebody going slow. Like, could you imagine paying $55 and then getting stuck behind somebody going slow?
Oh man,
Um,
I would request another ride.
of course, there's at those prices, there just may not be anybody riding, so you might not have anybody to get stuck behind.
Yeah,
So maybe that's a, I don't know.
maybe that's a benefit.
I can't. That's more. That one ride on that coaster is more than admission to a lot of parks.
That's great.
It's
Yeah,
cheaper to get into anyway.
or Knoebels, or I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, ride all day at Knoebels is cheaper.
Yeah, exactly. That's just crazy. I mean,
Now, actually, my actually, that is basically the same price as my Six Flags season pass.
that's amazing. Wow,
So yeah, that's wow.
that's New York for you, right?
I don't even. That's not even New York. I mean, like that's just ridiculous, is what that is. That's
Yeah,
it's not. And really, New York is more like Lake Placid isn't really anywhere near New York City. Like
well, I know,
you're
but I
not
mean, the state
like
itself, it's just kind of known for having like higher priced.
yeah, but most of that comes from New York City. I mean, yeah, sure, the state itself is maybe more expensive, but like I think that expensiveness is mainly people are thinking of New York City, where like everything's so super expensive. Regardless, I mean, this is just ridiculous. That's a ridiculous amount of money. You
Yeah.
could probably actually get a ride on a bobsled. Um, for that. And actually, that was another thing that I just saw this week was there was actually a place that was allowing you that they were actually giving bobsled rides,
Hmm.
and I don't recall where that
It
was.
wasn't Knoebels
I
because Flying Turns was closed.
Flying Flying Turns was closed.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know where that was. Yeah, if I find it, we'll have to report back, or
We will
maybe
maybe
I'll talk
have to do
about
that.
it or
Yeah.
something.
All right. Well,
But so
we'll talk about some other expensive things because Six Flags Qiddiya is definitely going to be very pricey. We just got kind of an update from the president and also like the company that's overseeing the construction of Qiddiya, which is like this large scale resort coming to Abu Dhabi, I believe. Is it Abu Dhabi?
No,
I think
like
it's the no, it's Saudi Arabia. It's Saudi Arabia, I believe.
yeah,
Um,
Saudi Arabia.
and yeah, that's gonna be. I mean, just the construction of this thing alone is gonna be very, 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 very pricey. And again, we're seeing quite a bit of rise in attractions come to this park. Rumored to be, I believe, the tallest, fastest, and longest roller coaster in the world will be opening up there. I'm really curious to see how they do this, how they pull this off.
First of all, I mean, I'm sure anybody really paying attention to the industry knows the POV that dropped last year of this alleged video
Yeah,
or of this alleged.
I'm
It's
sure.
pathetic. I mean, it's not a real coaster. There's no way it could be turned into a real coaster.
Yeah,
It denies physics, and it doesn't. I mean, it's
that's
it was a joke. And they're
exactly.
still talking about the video, which is hilarious.
They still showed footage of
Um,
that video. Yeah, in their newest like promo for this Qiddiya resort, they showed footage of the coaster from that video. So as of now, they're still basing their ride portfolio on that. So that's pretty
so
great.
there's a quote that was made in this that literally well let me read it to you. This was I forget where this was, but this is in one of the articles. I believe the article that we're going to put in the show notes. But the
Yeah.
description was Falcon's Flight will be Six Flags' most recognizable and anticipated thrill ride. It is the fastest, highest, and tallest coaster ever built. It incorporates our natural environment. It goes 200 meters up the side of a cliff, makes a little loop on the top, and then comes straight down. Not just with gravity, but accelerating down.
Ooh.
My response basically is, my niece and nephew are both kind of getting into coasters, and they both like to draw roller coasters. This is almost word for word like something that they would like. They just drew a roller coaster, and now they're explaining it to me. Like this is what I expect my 6-year-old nephew to say. Like this is he explaining the coaster he just drew. I mean, like I don't know. It seems to me like this is basically right now they're at the stage of we're going to break the record. We're going to shatter the record.
Yeah.
But they haven't really done any engineering on this coaster at all. They don't know what they're talking about. They're just completely talking out of their butt. They just don't. I mean, it goes up the cliff. It makes a little loop and then it goes straight down. Like you're not describing a roller coaster. I don't know what you're describing. Like I don't know. It just struck me as really funny.
It's truly incredible that this is they're still going along with this. Like that would have made everyone was like, oh, when they first announced it, they were like, oh, this is just their sloppy, you know, original, just layout and design. And then once we get closer to this thing opening up, we're gonna start seeing some more realistic and
Yeah.
understandable forces and elements and yeah, it's just it's amazing. I can't I don't know how long they're gonna go up with this or put up with this front here, but
Here's the thing about this though. Like people have I mean, I can't really blame them, but people have looked at this and they're like this whole park's a joke. It's not really happening.
uh,
I have no doubt in my mind that this park is happening.
yeah, I think it's happening.
And there is actually construction that is occurring.
Yeah,
And there's in the show notes we'll link a video that shows some of the construction that's been done. As a park, this is happening.
yes,
And I don't even really doubt that this park may very well have a roller coaster named Falcon's Flight.
yeah,
I don't think that's I don't think that's a drastic
and it very well
claim.
may be the tallest and
Um,
longest coaster in the world. I mean,
and yeah, it could be. I think they're probably going to try to break some records, and I think they have the money to do it.
yeah,
I
I
think
think
they
so
I
too.
think this was like they're basically their target is basically to double what Disney Sea cost. Uh, this may be the most expensive park ever built in history,
Yes, exactly.
and
Yeah.
I mean, the Saudis have the money. Like that.
Oh yeah, they
That's the
do.
thing.
They do.
They have the money to pull this off. But I think that's the thing. I think they're at that stage where they're just looking at we have the money to do whatever we want,
Let's just do it
but they haven't really taken like, oh wait, physics might stop us.
right now.
They're
Yeah,
like, wait, what do you mean? Like,
they're in that
physics
mindset.
is a thing that matters
They're in that
in
mindset of
amusement
money, money,
parks.
money, 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 money,
Right,
money, money,
exactly.
money.
Like,
We got it all. We got it all.
money
We
will
got it
not
all.
allow you to defeat physics. It just doesn't
And they're
work
gonna
that
start
way.
construction. They're gonna start construction on this thing. They're gonna like hire some firm to come down, and they're gonna be like showing them the blueprints, and they're gonna be like, guys, what the heck is this? We cannot do
Wait, you want us
this.
to do what?
Who designed this? This looks like it
Yeah,
was designed on Roller Coaster Tycoon. Oh man, that's
I
a
think
that's a discredit to
Planet
Roller
Coaster.
Coaster Tycoon. Oh man, it's not
Yeah,
it's not good.
it's interesting. Something's going on there. Like, I don't completely doubt this. I mean, they have the money. Something's going to come with this. I just don't know what. And I'm not like when they say that. I right now, Falcon's Flight is firmly in the category of the polar coaster. Actually, wait, no. The polar coaster actually meets physics and is
Yeah,
physically possible. So, polar coaster might actually be more feasible
yeah,
than what
more
Falcon's
probable.
Flight is as it's
Yeah,
currently announced.
yes. The
Now,
likelihood of
as this as it
Polar Coaster being
develops,
built
maybe it'll
is
be
100% more
yeah, yes,
yeah.
exactly.
Oh, man.
I think that's a sound design. It just is expensive, and maybe that's what they'll end up doing. This maybe this park will actually get the first actual polar coaster.
Maybe it will. Maybe we'll see
Two
that.
birds with one
It'll
stone. I'll call
definitely
it
be
Falcon's Flight.
it'll but the conclusion we can come of it is it'll definitely be a whole lot different than what we see now.
But like this also is going to introduce a different angle of it. I mean, there's a very large group of Americans that won't be able to go to this park because of the risks of some of the human rights concerns and things like
Yeah.
that. And I was reading right now, like, somebody jokingly made the comment of like, well, can I take my girlfriend, like, or will she be beheaded? Like, it was kind of like a joke, but with some seriousness to it. And the response was basically like, oh no, they're getting a little more progressive. Right now, water parks have different days. Like, one day is all men, and then the next day is for women and children,
Oh my gosh.
which I guess in relation to what they were, that's progressive, but
Yeah.
wow. So like, there's going to be all those concerns. Like, in some ways, I think that this park is being built as like, oh, we're going to draw people from all over the world, but people all over the world are going, yeah, we still don't really want to go there until you fix some of the other stuff. So that's going to be another interesting
Yeah.
dynamic about this park.
It is. It's just gonna be interesting to see how they develop. This thing isn't opening till 2023, so they got 3 years to work on their relations with the public and maybe come out and state at what their stance is on certain topics and issues of what's going on with their park. But let's talk about something back in the States. Let's talk about Six Flags Great America. And let's talk about how they're opening up for Holiday in the Park. However, this is not Holiday in the Park as we know it. This is actually Holiday in the Park Lights. They're calling this Holiday in the Park Lights because all they're doing is they're only able to show lights and they're only able to have shows and those kind of experiences. They're going to do outdoor shows, I believe. So there isn't really much going on there. I mean, that's better than California, I guess, because they're not even really, really allowed to open at all. Some parks are allowed to open with tiny little
Yeah,
events, but at least the whole park will be open.
I still don't understand this thinking. If you open a park and you have a gathering of people and it's all outside, what's it matter whether they're riding rides or not?
It doesn't. Yeah,
I mean,
they're gonna be going into
unless they're
bathrooms. They're gonna be
concerned
going
that
into restaurants. They're gonna be touching stuff.
yeah, oh yeah, Yeah, and I mean that's the thing. Like you're you're in like you're outside of Chicago in winter. Um, you're not going to be outside the whole time. Or you're
No.
just not going to have people come. Like you're going to have some. Like you know, you could down south. You could pull some of this off for winter, but
Yes,
like no,
exactly.
you need you. It's going to be cold. You need to go inside for a little bit here and there.
Yeah, there's no way
So I
that.
don't really understand why the rides are, and I don't know. I don't understand that. I mean, I guess maybe the thinking is it's like contact surface, but I don't know. That can be fixed by sanitizing. There are parks that are sanitizing between every ride. Um, I mean, why can't that be an option?
Yeah,
I don't know. I just don't understand that.
I don't get it either. Not even like, even if you don't want to open up every ride, just open up a couple rides. Like, what is the problem? I mean, I
Yeah,
know that talking about, obviously there's restrictions by the governor, but even if the governor said, okay, open up some rides, why couldn't he say open up, you can open up a certain amount of rides, or, because this is a capacity reduced event. So maybe he does state that you can't open the full park, or, along the lines of Busch Gardens Williamsburg, where
yeah,
they technically could, I guess, open up the entire park, but it's not economically feasible, really. So they're opening up like half the park. So I feel like that makes more sense than, I mean, if the full park's open, they're gonna have restaurants open, they're gonna have food stands and restrooms and stuff open. There's gonna be touching. There's gonna be, that's gonna happen. You can't deny that. No governor can deny that. No health expert can deny that.
right.
So yeah, it doesn't make any logical sense, really. It's I don't know. I feel like there's illogical approaches on both sides of the spectrum here that we're seeing underway. Like we just talked about FunSpot earlier, why they can't follow simple rules and restrictions for COVID, and then stuff like this is like it's almost they're going too far with it.
Yeah, it's like
Can we just
let's
find some
meet in the
medium
happy
ground?
medium.
Yeah.
I mean, really seriously, Pennsylvania has been one of the best, I think. Pennsylvania and Ohio really have been doing pretty good with this, I think.
Yeah.
They've
I
kind of
would.
I mean, I can't speak from experience in the Ohio parks. I haven't been there this year,
Well,
but
I
I've
have,
been
so I can
to
claim that for the podcast. I can claim that.
well, yeah, so there you go. I've been to 3 parks in Pennsylvania this year, and, I've been blown away. They've been doing a really good job. Hershey Park is kicking butt. They're doing Knoebels is kicking butt. They were doing a really good job, I think.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
a little less on the. I don't think Hershey Park's kicking butt, but they're doing a pretty good job.
I'm talking in a balance of, like, they're actually, like, they're bit there's some parks that just weren't making money. They weren't able to succeed
Oh, okay. You're talking about an
in
economical stance. Okay.
they're in a stance where they're actually doing a decent job of enforcement. Yes, there's always room for improvement, but they're doing a
Mm-hmm.
decent job, and they're actually still, you know, being very
I got to
successful.
tell you though, Bob. I don't. I cannot sit here and contemplate that there is any kind of capacity on either of those parks. So there's no. I mean, we're supposed to be operating at reduced capacity at these parks. Hershey was pretty dang packed, and Knoebels was insane. Like that was crazy. So I
Kn-
just
Knoebels, yeah, this past week at Knoebels was,
that was one of
I
the
will
most.
agree with you there. I can't see that was the busiest, and I've been to Covered Bridge Festival before.
This wasn't. Yeah, and there wasn't even a
I
covered
don't
bridge festival this year. That's the great part about it. That's the
That was
funniest
the
part.
busiest
I
I've
literally
ever
thought
seen
because of
Knoebels.
that, I'm like, maybe there won't be as big a crowd, and it was like, nope. Let's just reverse that. Let's just have the biggest crowd ever.
Hershey, on the other hand, though, I think the thing is I think the capacity limits have been raised greatly. I have been to Hershey when it's been ridiculously busier than that.
I'm
Um,
sure. I'm
and
sure.
actually, they've actually approached capacity. I believe I saw one day, at least one at one point, I saw them actually
Yeah, but is
reaching
that
capacity.
their max capacity, or is that like the reduced capacity? Like, do we know for sure, or we just know they reached a capacity?
Well, I mean, they've never done it before, so obviously it's a reduced capacity. Like
Eh,
I think it's a very high number. And I think that's the thing. I think Pennsylvania has realized that
That does,
outdoor events,
yeah.
like I think
And
they've raised that capacity a lot higher than a lot of other
and I don't think
places.
reduced capacity really does much. Like it's good. I think it's a good thing for like enclosed place like restaurants and stores. That's good, but I mean again like outdoor parks and stuff, having 1,000 people, having 5,000 people, I mean wearing the mask and stuff, it really like it doesn't really alter it to a great extent really at all. So
Right, and well, that's kind of what I'm saying. Like, I don't have any hard evidence of this, but I think that what has happened is Pennsylvania has, because this is here's one example. Through the summer, as a season pass holder, I had to make a reservation.
mhm.
They've now forgone that. All season pass holders they no longer need to make reservations to actually
Mhm.
go to the park. Only ticket holders do. So there's obviously been an increase in that capacity limit. And I think that's what it is I think Pennsylvania has adjusted to learning more about the virus. They're the understanding that outdoor events aren't quite as serious and that higher capacity isn't going to impact it. And I think that's what we're seeing. I don't think that there's just like, oh, we're back to normal as far as capacity.
Yeah.
I think that number is just a little higher. So
All right.
yes, I believe now Knoebels is harder. Like
Ah,
Knoebels has a really hard, like how do you control capacity at Knoebels?
yeah,
There's
you
no
can just walk
admission.
in. Yeah,
So
exactly.
right. So like they've always stated like their control on that is they watch the parking lot, but you don't know how many people are, in
Yeah,
each car and things like that. People could park down the street and walk and
exactly.
like
Yeah.
Knoebels is in a situation that's really tough to do something like that.
Which is why I'm
I do have to
surprised that they
say,
were
like,
able to open in the first place. I was kind of surprised when I heard Knoebels was reopening back up
yeah,
when it
but
did.
see, again, I think we're probably seeing one of those situations too, where now we're in the fall and like, Pennsylvania has increased that capacity for amusement parks. And like I said, I don't have any numbers. I don't have any sources to cite on
I don't
this,
know if they've,
but I
but
think
I
that,
feel like it depends on the park though, because Knoebels is way smaller than Hershey. I mean,
yeah,
so I don't
yeah,
think
but
there's a,
I mean, in relation,
I don't think there's like a broad number like here you could have 20,000 or 30,000 people. So are they looking
no,
at a
no, no, no.
specific park or what?
It's always been a percentage of normal capacity. But see,
Yeah,
I think that's the other thing is has Knoebels ever actually been rated as a capacity? I mean, when you don't have like Hershey is, you have the exact square footage of where people can be that are actually on the grounds of Hershey and considered in the park. Where do you draw the line of being in the park at Knoebels? I mean, you can't really. There's no defined line. Like, I'm now in the park. I
I
mean,
know because I mean technically
the
I
people
looked at the
witness the
map.
front entrance is actually in the middle of the park. So,
I looked at the actual map
you
of
know,
Knoebels too, like this past weekend when I was there, and the freaking the middle and largest pathway in the actual park that you walk down like what was it? What was the flat ride we did? What was that called again?
Power Surge.
Power Surge, Impulse. That like main pathway there is actually classified as a road, like it's a boulevard. It's Knoebels Boulevard.
Yeah,
That's an actual road. That's
yeah,
crazy. Um,
is actually right.
yeah, like by like state, like it's recognized stately like as a state road, as a boulevard. So
And
it's
actually, Phoenix Lane is as well.
there's actually a couple. I think there's like three or four throughout the entire park that are actual. I think there's Impulse
Yeah.
Way or something too. So yeah, there's quite a few, which is funny. So yeah, how do you control something like that? It's definitely difficult.
Yeah. So, I mean, outside of that whole capacity issue, I think that, like, the parks in Ohio and Pennsylvania have been doing a really good job.
And again, I don't
Um,
really think capacity matters. I'm just stating that almost like a devil's advocate there. That was, I mean,
yeah.
I don't think capacity
Oh,
changes
yeah. I
anything.
mean, I think there's a certain point where it does. I mean, I'll be honest with you. At the point of where Knoebels was, yes, or
Yeah,
like this past weekend,
there was really.
I think that's where you start getting to the point where it might be a little more of a concern. Um, but for the most for the majority of cases, I completely agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, that was the point that Knoebels there. I was like, even if it had been like normal, I would have been like, okay, how are we not at capacity? Like, how is this park not? Like, I'm getting overcrowded, and I mean, there were lines pouring out on the midways, like that. I
Yeah.
mean, it was crazy. So even if it was just normal, that isn't even me complaining about like, oh, pandemic, that like even if it was just normal operations, I would have been like, all right, I'm starting to get a little like, suffocated here. I'm getting like, I'm getting surrounded by people. I don't know what's
I
going
mean,
on.
we were, and that's another thing.
Engulfed
I had mentioned
by the
from
crowd.
last week's podcast when we recorded. I had said how like the compliance of masks blew me away and how great it was. And at like 8 p.m., it was like everybody took their mask off. It got so bad. I was in line for Cosmetron, and I am not kidding you. Less than 50% of the people in that line were wearing their masks properly. We went from like literally 95% of the people I saw wearing masks properly to less than 50% in like an hour. I don't understand it. I don't understand what happened.
It's almost like 8 o'clock
And I was
now.
like, I was
COVID's
like,
gone now.
and the weird thing was that was when we split up because I'm not really a fan of Halloween or haunted stuff. So like James and everybody else in our party actually went to the haunted mansion, and I
Yeah.
went to Red Cosmotron separately. And I was just kind of thinking this in my head. And I'm like, why are these people like? I was just thinking that, and like when we met back up, James even said something like, "Why nobody was wearing a mask?" I was like, "Oh my god, it really is the whole park." I like it just blew me away. Like it was just like everybody. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't understand that.
Yeah. So definitely getting back to Six Flags Great America.
I know we got on a rabbit trail, but that's
Getting
what we
back to
do.
there. Definitely, definitely interesting. I still think it's strange, as California as well, that some parks are able to operate, but they're not able to operate rides. It's definitely weird. But yeah, if you're in Chicago and you've been waiting a while for some parks to reopen, you got something at least. You get to go to a park and get in there. You don't get to ride anything, but you get to look at the coasters.
Get to ride in the car on the way, maybe.
Yeah, that's your ride for the day. Roll down the windows, go down some mountains if there's any. I don't. There's no mountains up there, but any hills at all. Fly up and down those and get some airtime, and then go to the park. All right. Well, also, what was kind of we stated in last week's show, and I thought we'd bring up again because it's kind of interesting because what was thought to be possibly something similar to this story with Six Flags Great America reopening for Holiday in the Park is now kind of confirmed not to be. It is pretty much confirmed not to be. The Carowinds we talked about on last week's show is or was or actually I could believe still continually is looking for applicants for staffing positions in the 2021 season. So what initially was thought of by that though was that they were looking for employees for the 2020 season because they just put them all out and everyone was like, oh look, they're looking to hire people. So based on that, and based on the fact that we'd seen rides testing and decorations for Christmas put up, people made the general assumption that that was Carowinds opening up for their Christmas event, Winterfest. It does not seem to be the case anymore, as that's not happening because Carowinds actually made a comment or I believe replied to someone via social media that they are still closed for 2021. There's no plans to reopen. And unless that's some sort of like they just don't want to really release it yet, maybe. But I just don't think that's happening.
I'll be honest with you. I really didn't like the first news that came out was the rides are running and Christmas decorations are going up. And at that point, I did not like. I had no. I was like, this is commercial shoot or something, or like maintenance on coasters, or like
Yeah,
maybe they're just like, hey, we have this time, we have staff, like let's test some Christmas displays, like let's do something worthwhile.
yeah,
Um, I think I like that's totally what I was. And then news was reported that they were hiring, and that's when I was like, oh well, if they're hiring for winter,
yeah,
then I guess but as it turns out, like that was kind of it wasn't fully fabricated, but it was kind of like a twisted version of what was actually going on that spread like wildfire.
yeah. So
Um,
the reasoning that people are stating that those well, I'll just say it. Those applicants were actually, I believe they said they're going to review them after January 2nd of 2021. Well, that was only a few of them, though. That's the interesting point, is that that's kind of what people are going, oh, well, Carowinds isn't actually opening because they're not going to review it till after 2021. But a couple of them, I believe, still stated like 2020. I think that, so I don't know. I mean, I definitely think that's probably just a mess up.
They had a stack of applications that they were planning on using for this year,
Yeah.
and they're like, we're not going to kill all these trees and reprint. I really think.
Well, the
they were
applicants were
probably just-
online, so like you
Oh.
apply online.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It was.
Might have just been a mistake. Might have been like that they had already printed it, or not even printed out, but like because it's obviously online. Then maybe they'd already like posted their website or whatever, and then they forgot to change it for 2021. I don't know. Could have been that. I have no clue. But yeah, I believe some people were going, oh well, it says 2021, but then other people were like, hey, but it doesn't. Not all of them say 2021. So I just think it's wishful thinking. I think if it happens, it happens. But I don't think you should go in the mindset this is without a doubt happening, because
there's like this weird phenomenon in the coaster community where people get together and they're like, if we believe it's true, it'll happen. It's like Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. Or if you believe it, it'll happen. And it's like people, like, I really think that's what, oh my God, if I argue with this person that tells me this isn't happening, well, then that's going to make it happen. No, it doesn't work that way. I don't care how hard you believe that Volcano is going to be rebuilt at King's Dominion. It's not going to happen. I mean,
oh man,
like, it's just, there are things that just aren't going to happen no matter how much you argue on the internet. It's just, I mean, arguing on the internet really doesn't do much.
Bob, you just
you
destroyed half of our audience. You just destroyed half of our.
I destroyed myself because I argue. I mean,
yeah,
we all do.
Exactly.
But it's like, so many people just get this, like, it just feels like it just really seems like they believe, like, it's like if I argue this point, it's not like Carowinds is sitting on Reddit going, oh wait, the tide's turning, it might open. They're not doing that. Like,
no, definitely not. So yeah, I just don't expect it. If it happens, it happens. I don't think there's any indication of that happening right now. Again, yes, applications for 2020 is technically still up, but hey, again, those stated that they were not going to be reviewed, or a couple of them stated not until after 2021. So that
do you even know what the positions were?
Yeah, I think they said like they were like ride operator, I believe like food manager, or like manager of food stands. I don't remember all of them name for name, but I know that there were actual like descriptions of what all they entailed listed there with them.
So, I mean, well, especially if it's management, like that could be trying to rehire some people that got laid off.
Yeah, exactly.
Full-time positions. Full-time position doesn't necessarily mean the park's opening. If they're going to hire a full-time position, that's a year-round. That's a year-round position.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, they can hire those at any point. That's not a significance of, oh, they're going to. I mean, if King's Dominion started hiring people, at the end of December, it's not like, oh, they're going to start their season in January. Like, that's just not practical. They're just doing it for, filling those full-time positions that need, are actually there for full-time support year round.
Yes, indeed.
A lot of that also has to go into, like, coming up with policies on how best to handle situations. I mean, like, maybe these are, Carowinds is saying, look, we're going to be opening early in 2021. Pandemic's not going to be over then. We need to have a team here to start planning for this and how we're going to accomplish this and how we're going to, like, logistically make things work during a pandemic, because they haven't really been open in the pandemic yet. So at some point they have to start planning for that if they are going to open next year. So, I mean, even if they're hiring people now, that doesn't necessarily signify that those people are to support the park opening now.
Yeah, and an interesting point you brought up last week. Well, you kind of asked the question, posed the question. What is North Carolina's guidelines still? I don't believe, and I stated I think that they were doing something similar to Virginia, but I don't even know if they're doing anything like that. I don't even know if parks are allowed, because I know that there was, they were one of the states that wasn't allowing parks to reopen. Because I remember we talked about South Carolina opening up, and then maybe half of the park could open. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't honestly. I thought I heard something about Virginia, like regulations type, like 1,000 people, but I honestly
Well,
don't
I do remember when
know.
my family goes on vacation every year to the Outer Banks, and my other hobby is pinball, and my nephew really likes pinball as well. So last year, there's a really really great pinball arcade outside of the Outer Banks called Flippers down there.
Mm-hmm.
And last year, I took my nephew to that arcade, and he loved it. Like we just had a blast there, just him and I playing all these pinball machines. So he was really looking forward to going to Flippers again this year. This was in August. I don't know if I said that, but when we went down there, Flippers is actually attached to a gas station as well. So I stopped there to get gas on my way down, and I asked them about, well, is there, what's the plan for the arcade opening? And at that point, she said they're not allowed. They're still considered in quarantine. They are absolutely not allowed to open any arcades. And I mean, that wasn't that long ago. So seems like North Carolina is being really strict about it.
Well, as you just stated that, I actually did some research, and I guess this is just Cedar Fair pulling a Cedar Fair then. Carolyn is able to reopen. North Carolina stated that they could
Really?
open up as long as the rides were socially distanced, high touched areas were disinfected. The capacity would be placed initially at 30%, but I think this article came out a while ago, so that might have progressively changed. And then obviously you have to wear face masks. And then it says indoor rides would remain closed, but I don't really think they have any like indoor rides
Okay.
that
So,
much.
well, I
So
guess an arcade would be indoors, so that was why the arcade was still closed then.
possibly.
Yeah, it's that's interesting.
Yeah, so this could just be Carowinds pulling another. Well, that also, now that I think about it, now I'm a little bit more keen on the fact that Carowinds could reopen because I was kind of thinking, either it's a really small percentage of people that are allowed to go, which 30% isn't a lot, but it's well more over, it's over 1,000 people. I guarantee it for Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. That's definitely way more people that are
Yeah.
allowed. So that's actually like economically feasible for them to reopen just even a small part of their park. Because Christmas for Winterfest, they actually open up a small portion. So now that I see that, I'm thinking maybe, but I don't think there's really any evidence, but it definitely is more like logical in my mind. Because now I'm thinking, okay, now they actually are able to reopen and they actually have a decent amount of capacity percentage available to come into their park. So it definitely makes more sense now that I think about it, but I don't think there's any solid evidence really pointing to it. So again, I wouldn't go into the mindset of thinking this is going to happen. But if it does happen, I think it's definitely an option now that I read that.
Yeah, I mean, anything's possible, but I don't know. I'm not gonna bank on it. I think
No,
that's
no,
that's
definitely
kind
don't
of
do
where.
that. And I mean, if we don't hear anything in the next couple weeks, I think it's pretty much the nail in the coffin. But again, it's good to be hopeful. It's good to keep a spirit of optimism, but I wouldn't let that overshadow the fact that they've already announced they're going to close for the 2021 season. Cedar Fair is being pretty keen
Right.
on keeping the parks that they've said they're going to close closed. Like there's no like backtracking. It doesn't seem. So we'll see. We'll definitely see. When we get back from this break now, we're going to be talking about something we kind of discussed with Carowinds, a little bit on the lines of that enthusiasts like to make this build up in their heads, and if they say it enough, if they believe it enough, and it's true. A lot of enthusiasts seem to think that rough equals a bad ride. Rough in terms of the ride shakes a lot, or that's pretty much jackhammers, wooden coaster jackhammer, and I don't think that's always the case. Me and Bob don't really agree with that. So I think there's been this false narrative buildup of that equating to a bad ride that almost it overshadows the fact that the ride actually might be pretty good. We're going to talk about that though when we get back from this break.
Yay.
God dang. Did a 58-minute news segment this week. Oh my god.
Yeah. It was a long one.
I didn't really feel like there's any big news either.
I know.
I guess the New York thing was pretty big. That's kind of
The
cool.
capacity thing kind of.
Yeah, we went off on a
Took up
rant
some.
there. I don't know. I'm actually kind of thinking Carowinds might reopen now. Not will, but thinking they like have the option to. Now I'm like, oh wow, I didn't realize they were actually able to open. I was thinking they were either not allowed to open a lot or they were not able to open at all.
Yeah,
We'll see. I don't know.
I'm not thinking they're going to.
I don't know. Yeah, it's probably unlikely, but I'm thinking I'm definitely more open to the idea of it now than I was.
Glad I checked. I was almost out of hard drive space. That was going to be bad.
What is that? You know,
I don't know why, like, as you were like saying that closing, I was like, oh my God, I think my main hard drive is like running low on space, and I'm like, I hope there's enough room for what we're recording right now. Just made it.
what would
So
have
I was
happened if
able
you
to
hadn't?
probably Audacity would have freaked out.
Oh boy. Hershey Park's small. I didn't even realize that. Hershey Park is a small park.
It's not a real big. I mean, size wise.
I mean, when you're there, they have like 14. They have like 14 coasters squeezed in there. It's
I know, but
121 acres.
That's why they roller coaster tycoon it.
It's 1/3 the size of Busch Gardens Williamsburg. That's crazy to think about.
That's why things are stacked on top of one another. It's awesome. I love that I love how they do it. It feels a lot bigger than it actually is, though.
Yeah, because they fit so much in there.
Indeed, they do.
All right, you ready for part 2?
Believe so.
Did we stop it all? I don't think we stopped it all. That's pretty
No.
impressive. 58 minutes of nonstop coaster talk. All right, you ready?
Did we put all our people in the chat to sleep?
I think so.
Oh, live stream people. They're like, they're asleep. They're like, we're here for the fights, the behind the scene fights, not this actually being successful.
I know. Things are smooth sailing tonight.
I'm getting tired.
Do you want to introduce this segment, or I can do it, or what? Or do you care?
I don't really care.
Since I think you're going to have a lot to say, I'll introduce it, and then you can go off on your little rant. All right, you ready?
Works for me. Yep. 3, 2.
So roller coasters, they're a thing.
They are.
Oh man, that was bad. Oh.
The hell, man. That's what I'm saying, Cam. What an intro. See, this is what we get for like actually successfully nailing the first half. It means this I don't even want to say half because we're not going to talk for another hour. I hope.
Don't you dare do it, Bob. Don't you do it.
So since we completed the first part successfully without really any issue, now this second part's going to be a disaster. I can feel it.
It's going to be rough, right?
It is going to be rough. All right. You ready to try again?
Uh-huh.
3, 2.
So, I'm trying to think of. I should have done that. I knew I wasn't ready, and I still tried to do it. I said yeah, like I was ready, and I wasn't ready. I'm trying to think. So, rough means like uneven or rigid, but it also means violent or like. So I was trying to say like for some reason people think rough has a negative connotation, but one of the definitions does have a negative connotation. So because the violent aspect of it does. So
You can't say violent. I mean,
that's what rough.
Skyrush is violent, but not rough.
But I mean that's the definition. Let me look at rough real quick. That's the definition of rough.
Well,
Having an uneven or regular surface, not smooth or level, and then the other definition is not gentle, violent, or boisterous.
why don't you just start out saying that, reading the definition?
Both definitions, or
Yeah, because not gentle. I mean, some of the best rides are not gentle.
yeah, all
Not
right.
even in a rough, you know.
All right.
I mean, Still Vengeance is not gentle,
I think it's pretty smooth.
but it's not gentle. That's my point.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, no roller coaster is gentle per se because you have forces.
Right. So we can, I mean, read that, but then we can kind of talk about that, like exclude the second because, the whole point of it is to not be gentle.
Yeah.
And then we go to the first one and.
All right, you ready?
Yep. 3, 2.
Rough. This is an adjective that means having an uneven or irregular surface, not smooth or level. And then there's another definition that is being not gentle, violent, or boisterous. So, rough. Really? Rough? Rough. Rough?
I mean, well, first of all, let's just say this, like there's let's talk to the RMC fanboys first. Still Vengeance,
Rough.
not rough, right?
No.
They wouldn't. I mean, the majority of people wouldn't say that Still Vengeance is rough.
No.
I also don't think anybody would say it's gentle.
No.
So we can pretty much exclude the whole second definition because that doesn't really apply to roller coasters.
No, because I mean, as much as that's probably what they're trying to convey there, I mean, you can't say that. You can't apply that definition to certain rides and then go, well, that ride's not that because it's, you can't exclude those rides. So either you fully accept this definition to mean that they're not gentle, violent, or boisterous, which, I mean, every roller coaster that has a significant amount of forces is going to be violent. They're going to, Skyrush, gosh, a world-renowned ride. Everyone loves it. That is violent, but it's not rough.
It is definitely gentle.
No, it is definitely not gentle, and it's very boisterous. So, I just love that word, boisterous. But rough. We got to think about rough. It's having an uneven or irregular surface, not smooth or level, and that is what I think originally rough was supposed to mean when talking about roller coasters. The track isn't fully level or it's not profiled to the great extent. But for some reason now that means
road. What's the rough road?
Yeah, exactly.
Road. I mean,
yeah.
That's what a rough road is.
Yeah, so for some reason we have this equation now that like any roughness plus a roller coaster equals bad ride. Bad ride. Just plain and simply. It just, Grizzly at King's Dominion, Wildcat at Hershey Park, I mean, list goes on. Beast, Kings Island. People talk about how these rides are rough. Wow, these rides are rough, and we don't really examine the fact that they can be great rides and also have some jackhammering. Me and Bob actually kind of discussed this past weekend, and that's kind of what brought us to this point. Roller coasters, especially wooden ones, are supposed to be and are made to like jackhammer and to be like swaying and move around, and they're not supposed to be like, I mean, yes, there are some glass smooth rides. Phoenix is a great example of that, but you look at Twister Knobles also. That's what a true wooden coaster is supposed to. They're supposed to be wild. They're supposed to be crazy.
Really, even those though aren't smooth glass smooth surfaces.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't call them rough, but they're not smooth. I mean, so they are rough.
Yeah,
I mean, you're like, yeah, they're rough, but they're a great ride. That does like
exactly.
they're
That's
not.
yeah. There are like Grizzly King's Dominion. I can fully grasp the concept that people think it is rough. It is rough. It jackhammers a lot. It shakes. It sways. Everything, every which way. The up. You're riding the upstops part of the ride, and you're flinging out of your seat and you're going up and down. It's crazy, but it's a great ride. That doesn't mean it's a bad ride. And for some reason, yeah, the equation is now that if a ride is rough, if you have that rough in there, in the equation of this ride, it's just a bad ride, and it discounts everything great that the ride does, which I think is totally unfair.
It absolutely is unfair, and like, there's so many. Even if you get into like the whole rattle thing, I mean, rattle to me,
Yeah,
a rattle
exactly.
is basically from roughness. Uh, for the most part, I mean, there's many things. I'm not an engineer, but like, there's many different things that can actually go into the rattle. And one of the things
Yeah,
that happens is like you don't replace wheels
yeah.
enough,
They
it
start
gets
to.
oblong and it makes the track kind of
Yeah.
wavy
Yes.
in a sense, and that's what creates a rattle. But that's not even a rattle's not always bad. E- Even still curtain from the day still curtain opened, there was I wouldn't even call it a rattle. I don't even know what there was a vibration. It had a
I mean,
vibration,
some
but
of the greatest steel coasters.
nobody said it took away from the ride.
I mean, I would state Intimate 305 has a rattle. Fury 325 has a rattle. Great steel rides have rattles, and that's pretty much the closest thing. I mean, yes, there are older steel coasters that are what some people consider rough. But in terms of the new generation of wooden coasters, I think a lot of people still call some of those rough. And I think the closest we can get with modern steel coasters is this rattle as of now. That rattle might develop into what people consider rough, but that doesn't, again, I don't think that makes it a bad ride. Loch Ness Monster is an old steel coaster that many, many love, many cherish. I'm not going to discount that the fact that a lot of people do like the ride, but I've heard many people also call it rough. And I definitely think there are points in the ride where you do shake around quite a bit that you might hit your head on the restraint. But
Oh,
that
it's a
doesn't
rough
discount the
ride.
ride. That ride is still great and fantastic and forceful and fun and awesome. And in the same category of the wooden coasters, it's still fantastic. The roughness does not.
Let me go to the flip side. I'm one that I don't like to really hate on coasters.
Yeah, I
There's
agree.
one, maybe two coaster that really starts to cross that threshold where I've said things that are on that borderline of hatred. Um, and we'll say my least favorite coaster in existence is Firebird at Six Flags America. People disagree, and I respect everybody that loves it. Go ride. I'm just one less person to stand in your way. Have fun, enjoy that coaster. I'm glad people like it.
Gotta
But
rewrite it.
here's the thing: as much as I despise that coaster, I will tell you that is an extremely smooth coaster. It
Yeah.
is very smooth. It is surprisingly smooth. It
Yes.
is smoother than it actually should be.
It's smoother than its predecessor, Apocalypse. Like it's crazy. Like they somehow made it smoother.
I don't know about that. I
I
actually thought Apocalypse was pretty smooth too.
Apocalypse was smooth, but Firebird was like, I swear, I honestly have no problem with saying this. I think it's probably the
I
smoothest coaster I've ever been on, honestly.
I think the difference is just the positioning. You feel it less, maybe. I don't know. Either way,
Maybe my height, I
it's a
don't know.
smooth. It is a really smooth coaster. I will say it's a bad coaster. I don't enjoy it. I don't like it at all. But I bang my head too much. That's the thing that I don't like. I can't tolerate that. But that doesn't make it rough.
Yeah.
And like that's kind of my whole point is like that, on the inverse, this isn't
Well, and I think people
like
ride rides and they have one bad experience, which I'm kind of pointing out to you, but not to you in particular. I think you should rewrite it. But I think what happens with this point of view is that people will ride Grizzly, or they'll ride Wildcat, or they'll ride Loch Ness Monster, or they'll ride any of the rides that you guys know, like that you know is like a common belief that this ride is rough, so therefore it's bad. Think of that ride in your mind. Keep that ride in your mind. Kind of use that as a point of what we're talking about here. And they'll point at that ride and they'll go, "I rode that one time. I got a really bad experience on it. It's awful. It's I'm never rewriting it again. It's terrible." Because at one point in my life, I did feel that way towards a certain ride, and that was Mighty Canadian Mindbuster at Canada's Wonderland. And that, I don't know if that was really rough, but it was jackhammering a lot, and I think that contributed to actually I got a stomach cramp on that ride. And I've said that multiple times on the show before, but bringing that up for this point, I stated when I got off that ride, I'm never going to ride that ride again. But now that I think about it, I probably will. I'll probably ride it again. I'll try it again, and you know what? I might like it. So I think that it has to do with actual, like, there are definitely different ride experiences that you get delivered on different days, different weather, different seating positions. So riding a ride once and getting, oh, I hit my head, or oh, I, slammed the side of the restraint or whatever, that doesn't make it a bad ride either. So there's a lot of like generalization with coasters. Like, I got one ride, I'm never riding it again. T3, Kentucky Kingdom. I rode it a second time just to make sure. I just still didn't like it, but and I'll ride it again when I go. It has nothing, like, I don't, especially like, I don't hate any in particular. I would never describe anything I have for a roller coaster hate. I don't think you can hate something that is your hobby and that you love. So for people to say that I hate Wildcat, or I hate Loch Ness Monster, or I hate anything, it's just not.
I will have to say, like, I actually completely agree with you. And yes, I understand the whole Firebird scenario. The thing with me and Firebird is that Rougarou is kind of like the predecessor that I tried multiple times, and every single time was painful. And actually, but
I
will say this: I'm not against rerouting Rougarou. The problem with Firebird for me, and I may rewrite it. At some
we got
point.
him on his word here, guys. I'm just kidding.
This is the problem. The amount of pain that I was in after I got off of Firebird was more than I had ever experienced getting off of a roller coaster. And it set me, like, I literally was out of commission for a while. And I'm a little bit nervous about doing that. Like, it has to be a specific scenario of like, okay, it's the last ride of the night and I don't have anything to do tomorrow. It's really, and that's kind of the scenario that I'm in with Firebird. Just because
I totally understand that, and I wasn't trying to point out that one.
No, I know. But I will say, like, now that some people have actually pointed out to me that they've actually had some better rides on it, I'm really, I may get on it again. But and I will tell you this too: Firebird's the only coaster that I've ever done that with. Actually, in all honesty, like, I'll ride pretty much anything, even if I know it hurts. I might, might ride it again. I'll be honest with you, I get off a Voyage with a headache, but the fun is so much better than the headache. Like, it's just
the good is so much better than the bad. Yeah. But that's the thing. Also, Voyage. That's a great ride to point out, Bob. Thank you for using that that's a good transitional piece right there. Because Voyage is rough. There's no doubt in my mind that Voyage is rough. I honestly, that's only this year, Hollywood Nights. I haven't really said this publicly, but I didn't even tell the person I was with, Timmy. I didn't tell him. I rode Voyage, and getting off of it, I've kind of felt that same way I felt when I got off Mighty Canadian Mindbuster. So I think that might actually be a physical thing that I like. Maybe when I shake too much or something, I get a stomach cramp or something. I kind of started to build that same feeling up. Definitely didn't get to the point where I was with Mighty Canadian Mindbuster, but I didn't care. I kept riding it. Because yet again, roughness does not equate a bad ride. Because Voyage is without a doubt my favorite roller coaster in the world. It's amazing, and it is what I would consider, like, what I would classify as it's not smooth. It's not, and there's the profiling isn't perfect. There are some points where
would it even be as good if it wasn't as rough?
Exactly, and that's the thing is that
I don't think
roughness
it
can be
would.
good. Roughness doesn't not only does it not make it a bad ride, it can also make it a good ride. Grizzly King's
I
Dominion.
mean,
If, it,
that's
if
why you have wooden coaster fans,
exactly,
because there is a my niece, I I was a very proud uncle. I forget which coaster we got off of, but I remember she got off and she said it was a wooden coaster. I wish I could remember which one it was, but I don't know. We got off and she said, "Wow, that was a really rough coaster, but it was a good kind of rough." And like that was just like, it was, she even realized like this is a rough coaster, but it's so much fun. It makes it
yeah,
it, it makes the ride.
there are bad rides, and we're not trying to say that there aren't rides out there that this isn't like a love everything. Everything needs to be loved. Like I understand, me and Bob both agree that there are rides that you're not gonna like, you're not gonna have fondness of, and if they're a wooden coaster, so be it. It isn't. We're not saying that you can't hate on wooden coasters, but to say that the sole purpose, the sole fact of you not liking them is because they're rough is I think kind of ludicrous, kind of wrong, because that's literally what they're meant to do. That's literally their purpose. So you're saying
I
they're
think
bad for being
actually
what they're supposed to be.
Hurler was kind of an example for me. I never actually thought Hurler was bad. Hurler at Kings Dominion. I
No,
never
I
thought it
liked
was
her.
rough. See, I didn't like it. I mean, I don't know. I was kind of indifferent from it. Like it was like,
It
yeah,
was there.
whatever. But it wasn't because it was rough. It wasn't rough. It
Yeah,
just seemed, I don't know, it just wasn't really fun for me.
just was. Yeah, it just
Um,
didn't do anything for you. That's fine. That's a good reason not to
yeah,
like a ride. If you don't like Grizzly at King's Dominion, maybe you get a couple bad rides on it. That's fair, and 100% can agree. But I you got to get a background night ride. Just speaking out of speaking out of term there, but yeah, it's definitely a fair point that rides can be rough, and we're not going to disclude that. But again, that just
but
doesn't
you
that
guys always harass me for one of my favorite rides. Verbolten has a
yeah, it has a rattle. But
you're
I
never
mean, we
gonna
make
ride it.
fun of you, but
It
we
has
like
a
it. We
bad
ride
rattle.
it. Yeah,
I don't care. It's fun. I don't care
exactly.
if it has a rattle. It doesn't hurt me. It doesn't. It's just fun. It's really
I feel
really
like you
fun.
can maybe use the roughness as like a if it is a significant portion of the ride, and that is and maybe that's not what maybe you can say I don't like that. I don't like roughness. I don't like that type of experience. That's fine. But when you go and ride, like, I mean, a lot of these GCIs, they feel. I mean, I'm gonna be a lot of people might get mad about this. I think at least when I rides like Rebel Yell or Race 75 now, Grizzly, other GCI, other older PTCs, I think feel just the same, and you might get hate for this than as newer GCIs. I think they feel in terms of their maneuvers and yeah, GCI does some different airtime hills and they do different innovative stuff, but in terms of how they ride, I don't think there's any difference. Invader, Busch Gardens, Williamsburg, especially, I've ridden that quite a bit now. And I think that ride's just the same as some older PTC wooden coasters. It feels this. There's not like a big this is way smooth. This I couldn't tell just based off riding it that this is a 2018 coaster. It's not like butter smooth or anything. It definitely runs like a wooden coaster, and I don't think that's bad. I think it
Right.
runs just like some older wooden coasters, and I think that's good. I think that's part of the fun. So I just don't see how you can praise, and I mean people love the new GCIs but then hate on the older PTCs and say they suck and they're awful. When half of the PTCs are tracked by GCI, GCI will come in and do retrack complain about them. And I'm like, it's literally GCI coming in and doing the track work now. So how can you complain about them? I don't know. It's just funny.
Yeah, it really is. I don't understand the mentality of people. In some ways, I think like maybe we're I don't know. I see people making the comments of like, all the younger coaster enthusiasts just can't handle anything. And, in some ways I want to
Ouch.
reject that, but I mean, but then, you start thinking about it, it's like, well, why why you consider this rough? Why I don't know. It's I don't know. It's kind of a weird thing to me. But here's another point I want to touch on that I think this is a bigger frustration for me that kind of goes hand in hand with this. Maybe you say, you know what? Yeah, I see what you're saying. but I just don't like rough coasters. I don't
Exactly.
really like wooden coasters. I just don't like them. Okay, that's fine. Let us ride. Let others that enjoy them ride. Just every single coaster in existence doesn't have to be a coaster that you
The
absolutely love.
manufacturers did not make them to please just you. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So Wildcat has its fans. It has a lot of fans, a lot more fans
Yeah.
than
Then people give it
people
credit for.
realize.
Yeah.
I think the main thing is the people that love Wildcat aren't really vocal. The people that hate Wildcat are extremely vocal. I don't know why. I don't understand why you get on that ride so much.
Yeah.
But you know what? Shut up and let us ride it. If you don't like it, that coaster is not hurting you. It's not like Hershey Park says that everybody that comes into the park has to get on this coaster. You are not forced to ride that coaster. That coaster is not hurting you at all by being in existence. So why argue for it to be demolished? You know
Yeah.
what? You like Still Vengeance and somebody else doesn't like Still Vengeance. Does that mean that they should cry and complain to Cedar Fair and say, "Hey, you need to tear Still Vengeance down"?
No, yeah.
No.
And I don't want to
It's there for different people.
and I don't want like people listening to this to think that we're saying that like you can't like wooden coasters as Bob stated kind of. Uh, I mean, you can not like them. That's fair, but the thing is what happens is that again, you'll state that you don't like the feeling of roughness. And I think that pretty much that feeling of roughness applies to every wooden coaster ever created. That same feeling of roughness, I think, is experienced. I mean, every wooden coaster I've ever ridden, excluding like El Toro or Lightning Rod, where they're like, they're true wooden. Oh, El Toro's a true wooden coaster. It's just produced differently from a maintenance standpoint, and like they wanted to make it so that they didn't have to replace track and all that, and they made it so yeah, it is a smoother ride because they prefabricated it. But other than that, and other than the other prefabs out there, every other wooden coaster I've ridden has had that same feeling of roughness. So I don't know how you can say I don't know how you can pick and choose and go I don't like that one's roughness. I don't like this one's roughness. Oh, but this one's roughness is good. This one's roughness is bad. This one I don't think there's like levels of roughness. I don't think I've ever ridden a wooden coaster where I'm like, holy crap, that jackhammered way more than this ride or that ride or the other ride. I think there's like a pretty median feeling that is pretty much encountered on every wooden coaster of that jackhammering. I think it happens on every ride. Yeah, maybe sometimes there's a little tiny bit more here and there, but I don't think I've ever ridden a ride where I'm like, holy crap, you were like swaying, the whole train was crazy. Like, it's never been like that. And sometimes that's how it's made out to be, which is crazy.
Sometimes I think people like, I don't know. Sometimes I think they take it personally. It's like there's a bunch of people that like Wildcat and you don't like Wildcat and you feel awkward about that. So for some reason, like the solution is to just bash it and like
Yeah,
make this. I don't know. It's like it feels like almost like sometimes it's a defense mechanism. I don't know. Like it doesn't. I don't care if you don't like my favorite roller coaster. Then like it's okay. I'll still be your friend. Like
yeah,
it. I mean, it just
yeah.
the problem is whenever you don't like my coaster and you start arguing that it should be torn down.
Yeah.
That's when we cross the line of like, wait, are you really a coaster enthusiast? Because coaster enthusiast, you're not an RMC enthusiast, you're a
Yeah,
coaster enthusiast. That means you're enthusiastic about coasters.
yeah. You don't get to like
So why are
select.
there so many coaster enthusiasts that hate? I don't get it. I don't understand it.
And that's that. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, maybe you have as well. I've been in that like category, that mindset before, and I'm like, and I've realized over the past couple of years, I'm like, this isn't true enthusiasm. It's just not. It's not. That's not. I'm not fitting the definition of it. I'm because to be enthusiastic about it, like if you're a car enthusiast, you're interested with all like you don't hear a car enthusiast go, I hate that car. They're interested in the car regardless of maybe it's not like the coolest looking car, it's not the greatest car, but they're still interested. They're still
Working on
fascinated
that
with
car. Yeah,
yeah, they're still
exactly.
fascinated with like what engine it has and oh what does it do and oh how is it. They're still fascinated with it. They still are intrigued by it. They still will ride it and they'll still love it. You know, but it's amazing to me that there's so many enthusiasts or roller coaster enthusiasts that will just flat out hate this or hate that or hate this park or hate that ride. And that's getting in a different subject matter really, but yeah, it's
I
just
think it goes hand in hand because I think people take it as like, oh, this is a rough coaster. So, like,
well,
I
yeah, but
think
I was
that's
yeah.
the thing. People see a bad coaster and they, oh, it's rough. So, like, since it's rough, like, it's broken. Like that. I think that's another thing. It's like
Yeah.
people equate roughness as though it's broken, like it's bad, like, and
Like it's
that's
not
not
so- like
necessarily
again,
the
like
case.
it's not the purpose of the wooden coaster to jackhammer to move maneuver like that. Like for some reason people think that when you ride a wooden coaster, or at least they kind of pick and choose which ones. They almost have these uh, like requirements, like it has to be as smooth as the steel coaster or it's not good, and it's only for certain rides though. It doesn't apply to like Mystic Timbers or to Voyage or to those rides that have the jackhammering too. But when I'm riding Great American Scream Machine at Six Flags Over Georgia, or Grizzly at King's Dominion, or then it has to be smoother than freaking Griffin at Busch Gardens, the dive coaster. It has to be smoother than that. It has to be smoother than that B&M. It's almost like when they set different standards for different rides and different wooden coasters, and it's just not cool. I don't think. If you apply that to all wooden coasters equally, and you guys just don't like that feeling, then that's fine. But when you start picking and choosing, oh, that one's a little too much there, and oh, that one's fine though, that one's jackhammering's good, but this one's isn't good. Like it's just like, come on, man. I mean, it's crazy. It's
I think I will. I think I will say to an extent though. There are certainly some wooden coasters that are rougher than others.
I don't
I definitely agree with you on a broad spectrum. Um,
I don't really
like
I don't agree with that actually. So I don't really think any, like when I get off Mystic Timbers or Invader, or I'm trying to think, a Wildcat or Lightning Racer, any of the GCIs, and then I go back and ride an older PTC wooden coaster, I am pretty much feeling the same feeling
well,
in terms of jackhammering,
yes,
in
I agree with you. I
terms
agree
of
with you on
roughness.
that. But I think there are some coasters, and like I'm trying to think. Well, I love Grizzly, but I think I would probably say that Grizzly is rougher than.
I
I
mean,
mean,
it's
there's wouldn't
sure,
it
sure,
is.
sure, sure, but it's rougher than like Mystic Timbers. Let's just say Mystic Timbers or something.
Yeah,
But I think that's because of the maneuvers that Grizzly does. Grizzly does those lateral turns where
yeah,
you're getting thrown into the side of it. So
right,
yeah, you're going to get more rough ride, and then it does like that
right.
unbanked airtime hill. So
What I'm
there's
saying
definitely
though is
some
like
elements that add to that. But I don't
it's
think
a
in
fair
terms of
thing to say though that I Grizzly's too rough for me.
hmm
I don't agree with that. I love Grizzly. I absolutely love Grizzly. Um, but I think it's fair for some people to say, you know what,
I don't think,
I
but I don't
tried
think too
Grizzly a
rough is
couple
the right
times.
word. That's my belief, is that I don't think too rough. I think it doesn't do maneuvers that are friendly to my, like, because if Grizzly did what Mystic Timbers, like if it took the exact same layout, I think it would pretty much be smooth. Like it would, because Mystic Timbers does like these pretty broad and pretty like sustained airtime
Yeah,
moments, it's going to be
well,
pretty
I
smooth.
think
But
they're
because
also
Grizzly throws you into these turns, it does, the profiling's not as great. But like the trains themselves, them jackhammering, I don't really think is any different than Mystic Timbers. Mystic Timbers has that jackhammering too. That's what I'm arguing in terms. That's what I'm seeing as roughness. I'm not seeing the actual ride itself, like what it does. Like I'm considering the actual track, the profiling, and the actual like coaster itself, like the train itself. That maneuver that it does and shakes around, that's what I consider rough. I don't, because yeah, there are definitely some rides that, like even steel coasters, that do some maneuvers that it's like, oh wow, that's uncomfortable, and that's where I go, okay, that makes sense. Maybe you don't like that. Maybe that's why you don't like the ride. But I don't think the roughness
I think
itself is what
I
contributes
think
to that.
Grizzly kind of has been neglected some. So I think that's a contributing factor. But I think the whole point is even though let's just say, humor me for a second. Let's just say, okay, Grizzly's rougher than other wooden coasters. That doesn't automatically mean, oh, it's a bad coaster or oh, it's a broken coaster.
hmm
It can. You're permitted not to like it.
No, yeah, I agree with that. I agree that you're allowed to not like
Bad
rides,
coaster.
but I don't
That
think,
that absolutely does not mean it's a bad coaster.
but
Is
I
what
don't
I'm
think the
saying. Like that
one,
doesn't mean it's like
but my argument again, and this is just my opinion. I don't necessarily think that other people aren't going to agree with this. I definitely don't think that everyone's going to agree with this. I don't necessarily think that. Is that I don't think that, in my opinion, I don't think that you can use roughness as why a ride's bad. I just don't. I don't think you can say, oh, it's
no.
too rough for me.
I completely agree with you.
I think you say
I'm
it's
I'm just saying that it's like it's you don't like that amount of roughness. That's okay, but that doesn't make the ride bad. That's what I'm saying. It
Okay,
doesn't
well
make that
that's fair, but I
ride.
still I don't even think saying that's fair because I think it's too rough implies that again I don't really think there's a level of roughness. I think that really what happens is when you're on the ride, you're jackhammering, you're doing things, and then what the actual ride itself does is what makes the actual ride uncomfortable or not. Because there are steel coasters that do maneuvers and element like Anaconda, King's Dominion. I don't know if it's necessarily rough, but it does some elements that are painful for me. Like I'll still ride it again. I don't hate a coaster, but it does some elements
Yeah.
where I shake and I'll headbang and I'm like ah. But I wouldn't say oh Anaconda's too rough for me. I would say it does some it shakes some, but it does some maneuvers where that roughness and then the elements it takes, like those corkscrews, bang my head against this harness, and that's where the pain comes, and that's why I don't like it as much as other rides. So that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that the roughness might contribute. It might be like an adding factor, but to just say that Anaconda's rough, so I don't like it's too rough for me, I don't think that's a valid statement. It's too rough for me. You have to say there's an actual contribute the roughness, and then this also because if Anaconda did what it does and it shook a little bit like it does throughout the entire ride, pretty much, I wouldn't mind it. And if it didn't do any like those Titan versions and stuff, I wouldn't really that wouldn't bother me. But because of those elements it takes with that shakiness, that's what actually ends up causing the pain and the struggles that I encounter on the ride.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I mean, I kind of see it a little bit differently, but I mean, I don't think we're that far apart from each other.
No,
I think
no,
we're kind of the same thing.
we're the same
Um,
general area. Yeah, it's
yeah,
almost like the political
yeah, exactly.
spectrum. I'm a little bit further, in one direction, but you're over there with me.
Yeah, it just, I mean, you know, I
And to be
guess,
honest, that's
that's kind of the more I talk about this, the more I'm like really, really kind of digging into that.
mhm.
Roughness. I think people are kind of maybe it's not so much they're equating roughness as bad as they're equating roughness as broken.
Yeah,
Like because something
that is
is
true.
rough, that automatically means that the ride is broken and
It's not
therefore it should
running how
be
it's supposed to.
torn
Yeah,
down. Yeah, and I mean that's not necessarily the case.
it's
You know,
pretty much never the
the
case,
roughness
actually.
or
Yeah.
yeah, I just I mean, sure, sure. So, you look at some coasters that just aren't as exciting. They're not as thrilling. They were in their time. We've moved so far beyond that. But that doesn't mean that they're worthless.
And Bob,
I think,
I want to give. Sorry, just to cut you off there, but I want to give
nope, go
one.
for it.
I want to give an example because I'm actually looking at it on my desk right now. It's Alpengeister Busch Gardens Williamsburg. A lot of people will claim that to be a butter smooth ride, which I don't really know if I agree with that. But some people I've heard said it's a butter smooth ride. But I will agree that there is some quote unquote roughness to the ride. Like it does shake, it does have that rattle. But the one point that many people complain, the people that do complain about it, the people that do not say it's a butter smooth ride, they think it's rough or rough quote unquote, will claim it's that Cobra roll that's like the point of diminishing. That's the point that they're like, oh my god, and that is because of the maneuver it takes. Yes, it is shaking. Yes, it does have that
Yes.
rattle, but it's because that Cobra roll is so tight that you're like getting flung over that, which I
And,
love. I think that's awesome, but I can
and
understand
people
why that maneuver would cause pain to some people. But I don't think that makes
people
the
are
ride.
banging their heads off the restraint, which
Yeah,
is in turn going, oh, this means it's rough.
exactly.
That's something that actually was. I mean, I'm not like you don't. I mean, if you come and like tap me on my head with enough strength, like, not even hit, but just kind of tap me a good solid tap, I
Hmm.
will get a headache. That's just the way my body is.
Hmm.
So I'm a lot more susceptible to those things of like hitting my head off the restraint. That can cause me depending on how hard it was, it could cause me a great deal of pain. And it took me a while to realize that. Like, you just kind of get off a coaster and you're like, oh man, my head hurts. I was so rough. But it wasn't. The more I started realizing that the ride was smooth, it was the maneuver that threw me into you know, that restraint. And that's kind of the same thing with Firebird, and why I don't like Firebird. And Alpengeist, I love Alpengeist as a coaster. I think it is a smooth coaster. I think it's a great coaster. I personally can't ride it a lot though because just because my head can't
Yeah, that
handle
one
it.
maneuver, that
Doesn't
one
mean it's
maneuver,
bad.
the Cobra roll.
Well, there are some other things that kind of, for me, are like I can't marathon the ride because it'll be hitting my head repeatedly.
Hmm.
Um, and I mean, I do not fault the ride at all. That's not the ride's fault. That's just me.
Yeah, and
There's plenty of people that love it, and they rightfully so love it.
mhm. So I just think that that goes to show that any ride with the right maneuver can be considered rough. Sky Rush could, in theory, have done an element where everyone goes, "Oh my God, wow, that's rough." That doesn't. I think people, even if they did some type of element where you're turning to like so sharply, which you do a lot of sharp turns. But if Intamin has somehow developed an element on that ride that people considered rough, which again I don't really consider that rough. But if people had started kind of classifying that element as rough, I mean, I think that would, first of all, that would kind of go against my own opinion of what classifies a ride as rough. But I would say that element, and maybe the fact that, I mean, yeah, sure, Skyrush does have a little bit of vibrations. There are definitely some vibrations. I think pretty much every steel coaster I think I've ridden has that vibration. For some reason, people like to go, "Oh no, perfect coasters don't." I mean, even like smoothest rides in a Griffin even vibrates a little bit. It's crazy that people have these such high standards for rides that like a ride can't shake or it's a rattle and it's, oh my gosh. We like to pick on
But
you for
it's
Bolton just
funny.
because it's funny, but I don't really.
Oh, I know. I know. But the funny thing about it is though that you'll have somebody that's like, "Oh, rattles. I hate rattles. I hate rattles. I hate rattles." And then they say their favorite ride, which is kind of like people know to have a rattle, and they're like, "It doesn't have a rattle." It's like, oh,
Oh my
come on
gosh.
now.
It's
You
like I
can't
said.
just
It's like they pick and choose
see.
which one gets to have it. Like this one
But see,
doesn't
the
have it. This
thing
one
is
does have it. It's a
I
mindset.
don't think in their minds, I don't even think they realize that there's a rattle
It's a
there.
mindset. Yep.
Which kind of brings up another point. This echo chamber that we call the enthusiast community sometimes does itself more harm than good because you have situations where people are going to a ride for the first time and they're looking for that rattle that everybody's talking about.
Yeah, or they're
So
looking
their
for that
mind
roughness
isn't
that
like,
everyone's saying. Yeah.
right. And if you're looking for it, you're going to find it. Because,
Somewhere. Yep.
if you
Some
just
shape
get
or
on the
fashion.
ride and ride it, you might not even notice it. But
Yep.
because it's in your head,
It's
you're
there.
going to be looking for it. And
And
you're,
even if you don't really
yeah.
experience it, you go, well, I thought that's kind of rough, I mean, yeah, there
It's
was
like
some.
that, it's like you drive the same route every day, right?
Yep.
And all of a sudden somebody says, "Hey, you drive by that blue house with the bright pink door?" And you're like, "What are you talking about?" Like that, you never noticed this bright blue house with this bright pink door, but now that somebody pointed out to you, you will never not see
Yep.
that bright blue house. Like now, every time, you drove by it many times. You weren't looking for it. You didn't know it existed. You had no idea it was there, even though you drove by it every single day of your life.
And even I think almost a more funny example might be, or more relatable to this, it would be like if someone pointed out a pothole. You never noticed the pothole, but then now you just keep driving over the pothole. It's almost like now you see
Yeah.
the pothole and you're like, oh wait, there's the pothole. Oh crap, I'm going over. Like, and now it's become more like of a, oh crap, now there's a pot. Like someone's like, you ever notice that really bad pothole you drive over every time? No, not really. And then when you hit it, you're like, oh, there it is. There's that pothole. That is really bad. Oh my god. That's like, yeah.
And actually, another little funny story on my parents' TV has this little the frame is like has this little piece that comes out into the screen ever so slightly.
Hmm.
And like when I'm up there, I sit on the one side of the room. So like I always see it, but I never said anything. And I mentioned it to my dad. Actually, this was just like last month, I think. I mentioned to my dad, I'm like, I wish that wasn't there. My mom's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, oh, don't you see that little black? She's like, oh my God, I will never not see that now. And now, like now that's there. Like she never like they've had that TV for probably 5 years, never noticed that, but now it'll always be there. That's just, I mean, but that's what it is. You start looking for something, you're gonna find it. It's gonna be there.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what happens if through the multiple examples we just gave. That's what happens with this community. Someone says, "Oh, didn't you feel that pothole on El Toro?" And I felt, sure enough, when I rode El Toro, I felt that little pothole. Like I honestly probably wouldn't have really noticed or really made any big deal out of it. But right after that Rolling Thunder Hill, there was a bit of a pothole, and now I've actually like developed like an actual thought process for it, and I like recognize that it's there. Like I wouldn't have even like really considered that part of the ride that much. Like I would have been like the El Toro, the Rolling Thunder Hill is great, and then the rest of the ride happened. Then like you go through the twister section, but I wouldn't really have made that pothole a part of my discussion of that ride, and now it has become part of it because so many people talk about it.
Somebody said, "Yep."
Yeah, so it's true, and I think that doesn't make it a bad ride. Again, I mean El Toro. I just stated earlier how I just now thought about this was too. That's a butter smooth ride. It's prefabricated. It's pretty much as smooth as you can get for a wooden coaster, and it still has an element on it that people complain about being rough, which I think is wrong. It's just wrong because I still don't think that's really the definition of. I mean, how can you say that an entire ride? I mean, it's kind of contradictory. You say that this entire ride is butter smooth. It's prefabricated. Intamin has created this fantastic track that literally is smooth as steel coaster, and then you guys still, people will still say that it's rough at that one point. That's like a really rough. That ride is rough at that Rolling Thunder Hill. After that Rolling Thunder Hill, you get some really rough section of track, and I'm like, wait, how can it be rough though? It's smooth. Like, yeah, you get so much force there that you're getting like slammed down in your seat, but that doesn't maybe that's again that could be an element that you don't like, that is too uncomfortable for you, that puts you in a position that you don't like to be in. It hurts you, whatever, but it's not rough. The ride, that doesn't make the ride rough. That's just wrong.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
She's killing me. Why didn't you just turn the light off? Good night. She's crazy. She said because good night. Oh, maybe she wants me to go to bed. I don't care. I have to finish this now. What did you say? You said I agree.
Well, yeah, I think we kind of wrapped that up anyway.
That's good. That's a good start.
All right, let's pick back up and just go into the weekly poll, I guess.
Pretty much, yeah. I'll say something funny, but it's all right. All right, here we go.
All right, 3, 2.
All right, so if we haven't drilled it into your heads enough, that is our take on the rough coasters, quote unquote. Yeah, all right. So we're gonna transition from that. That might have felt more like a sermon almost. We were like preaching to you guys. But yeah, I mean, again, that's just for you guys to understand our thought processes and our views on it. This isn't us going that this is factual and this is how you have to view it. Of course, we understand that other people, you might still think that rough is whatever. It's whatever you think rough is. It still very well could be. That's just our takes on it and how we feel that it should be viewed, but it's definitely not how everyone's going to view it. All right, so what we are going to talk about now is something we're going to lighten the mood a little bit, I guess. Talk about some of our favorite theme park podcasts, and this is not in relation to Coaster Talk. We're not talking about we're not going to be like, oh, look at all these people writing. We said if Coaster Talk's your favorite, then exclude it and write into this. So this isn't us going, look at all these people who like Coaster Talk podcasts. We're talking about all other podcasts here.
Or maybe this is just us saving ourselves when everybody doesn't say Coaster Talk, and we don't.
Yeah. All these people are now on our X list because they didn't say Coaster Talk. So we got a lot of good responses here. But the most interesting one that I like is Coaster Radio. Someone said, and the reason I like them so much is because they were kind of enthusiasts that I was. I liked coasters, but I didn't really know a lot about them when I first started listening. And I think that's 100% the right mindset to go in with Coaster Radio. As a huge Coaster Radio fan, as someone that, I mean, I can contribute my podcasting to them. I started a roller coaster centered podcast because of them. I think we definitely do some things different though. I think we definitely are more in tune with the community, but that's what Coaster Radio is. They admit to themselves that they're not coaster enthusiasts. They even have a character, Coaster Boy, that's supposed to be like me and Bob. The guys that argue about wooden coasters for 30 minutes on their podcasts and argue about the roughness of them and or not even just wooden coasters, the roughness of coasters, argue about kids areas, peanuts, and we argue about all this silly stuff. That they admit that they're not that, which is the great thing about them. So if you're not,
Nobody would argue about peanuts.
well, peanuts themed kids area. I mean, what other than coaster enthusiasts? I don't know. Amusement park enthusiasts, some crazy amusement park enthusiasts known as Coaster Boys, which will do that, and that's exactly what Coaster Radio likes to joke about. So, 100%. In the Loop is another response we got, and I would like to state out that In the Loop guys actually wrote in the Loop for themselves, so their favorite podcast is their own podcast. But In the Loop is great, guys. They're definitely a fun, relaxed, interesting. They definitely dive into some deep stuff though. They're definitely on the line of me and Bob. They definitely get into some deep topics and they get in and go into detail on rides and attractions and things like that. But they definitely are very relaxed and they definitely have some fun with it. One that I've never listened to, but I've heard a lot about now is Talkin' Trimless. I think I know the guys that do it somewhat well. I think I follow them on social media. But they have two responses here. Someone said, I love all the segment and creative ideas that they do. I don't know what all that is because, again, never really listened to their show, but that's great. That they seem to be good. Another In the Loop response we got an Imagine Your Podcast response, which is a pretty popular Disney podcast talking about like the Imagineering and all of the stuff that goes into making the rides. That's definitely a good response, I think. I've never really listened to it. I'm not a big Disney guy, to be honest, really. I don't know what it is about Disney that really doesn't intrigue me. They don't really do... I mean, I love theme parks, so really I should love Disney. And I think if I got to a Disney park, I would probably love it, but...
Disney's in its own little...
Disney's its own universe.
The big is you can't just like you and I can decide like, oh, let's just go to Busch Gardens today or tomorrow, this weekend or whatever. Disney's not really that park. I mean, unless you live close by and you have a pass, for the most part, the majority of people, you can't just like say, oh, let's just go to Disney for the day. It's a whole vacation.
And it's not a subject that you can follow along with coasters. To be a Disney enthusiast and to know what's going on with Disney, you have to commit your entire time to Disney. Like if you want to know about
so much involved there.
Yeah, if you want to know about each and every park and what they're doing and who's going there, it's literally like following the U.S. parks, because I mean the same amount of news that comes out about roller coasters and stuff that we talk about on the show comes about Disney every day. There's new restrooms opening. There's new system of fast pass being used. Oh, they've altered this. Oh, they've altered that. It's crazy because they're always innovating. They're always doing new stuff and doing different ideas at different parks. So there's a lot to follow. And I mean, there's like, what is it? There's at least like 10 or 15 parks, just Disney parks throughout the country, throughout the world that are I mean, doing different things, like Disney Sea in Japan, and then you have Disneyland Paris and Disneyland in the United States, and then Disney World. So you have just tons of stuff going on in all their different parks. So and then their actual parks themselves are made up of multiple different parks. So it's definitely a lot to follow there.
Indeed.
We got another one for the Twisted Travelers podcast. I haven't listened to that either, I can say, so I'm not too informed on what it all is they do, but I definitely have heard of it. So that's definitely, I think I know actually the guys that run that as well. So yeah, we got a Coaster 101 podcast, which is that's a newer podcast. So that's one that I definitely want to look into. Because I like the guys at Coaster 101. I think they do a good job with a lot of their articles and news updates and stuff like that. So definitely would like to check out that.
Yeah, I haven't listened to the Coaster 101 podcast either, but I've been following them for a while. They have a good bit of information that they put out, and they're fun to follow on Twitter. I know that. So I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, for sure. We got one for the Drunk Riders podcast. They said they're just so much fun. So, yeah, there's definitely a different dynamic with it. I feel like, I don't know, that could be hey, if you guys want to, I'm gonna do this a little early contact us. Email james@coastertalkpodcast.com or bob@coastertalkpodcast.com, or contact us, coastertalkpodcast.com/contact, and let us know what kind of dynamic you think we get. I'm kind of curious to hear that, because I think we do some lighthearted, funny stuff sometimes, and then we also do some pretty serious news and facts and stuff like that. So I think I'm curious to see what people like when they listen to us, though. What are they getting from us? Because I definitely like Coaster Radio. They're definitely always pretty lighthearted and fun and cracking jokes. And then In the Loops, kind of relaxed and same kind of like that kind of crack jokes. But then there's also podcasts like like the Ace podcast that's like very information based, and they're giving us information about upcoming events and things of that nature. So there's different dynamics with different podcasts, and I'm curious to hear what people think is ours, kind of.
I actually listened to Drunk Riders for the first time this weekend when I was on my way up to Knoebels, and pretty good podcast. I think my problem was it was I don't really drink alcohol that much.
That might do it.
Yeah, so like the whole first part was like 15 minutes of like, what are they talking about? Like I have like what do you
like IPAs, I know about it because my dad drinks a lot, so I know what all these beers are.
I don't know any of that. I'm like, if I'm in a position to order a beer, it's do you have Yingling? Okay. I mean, I don't really like, if you had me do a taste test between different beers, I probably wouldn't even be able to tell you. Like I don't know. And they're talking about, oh well, this is this kind of taste, and I'm like, oh my god, I can't know.
No.
I just don't get it.
Yeah, that might have been foretold to you in the name.
Got into it was kind of fun though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, and those are the responses that we got this week. So very interesting to hear from you guys. I feel like a lot of people didn't respond because they almost felt like it was a trap. Maybe they might have thought, my trap. I don't want them to like block us after we don't vote for Coaster Talk Podcast, even though it specifically says in the directions, don't vote for Coaster Talk Podcast. They still might have felt like we were like, you better do it. You better just say it. Say it.
Yeah. I actually listen to Coaster Radio a lot. I do like
that's definitely my choice.
I am actually like, I wish we would have got more responses, because I'm kind of interested. Now that I have a little bit of a longer commute, I was I'm thinking, well, maybe I'll fill it with listening to podcasts. Although sometimes I just get in the car and I'm like, I just want to chill to music. So I don't know.
That's more what I do.
I am definitely wanting to kind of get into listening to some more podcasts. Especially, like, I didn't realize how many there were out there.
There's tons.
I don't know. I want to check out, see what other ones are there and which ones are good. I was intrigued. I just saw there's a podcast called Coaster Dads, which is kind of interesting to me, and I'm kind of curious. Is there actually competition by like another enthusiast that actually knows height requirements of rides? Which is kind of a funny story. I'll let you tell it about Impulse this weekend.
Yeah. So at Impulse, actually, surprisingly too, for both me and Timmy, we were literally about to walk in to the ride's actual queue, but there was a line outside of the actual queue itself, so we were kind of stretching along the pathways. But we're about to go in the actual queue system itself, and a lady comes right up to the front. She goes, "Oh crap! What is the height requirement for this ride? Does anybody know that?" Like, she kind of yells it out for everybody. Anybody know it? And Bob looks at her. I don't remember what it was on. I don't even remember what it was. And he goes like 42 inches. And she's like, all right, thank you.
It was 48 inches with an adult.
48 inches with an adult. Just spits that out. 52. And me and Timmy look at each other and we're like, what the heck? That actually came in handy. That actually was a necessary information to know at this point in time. Yeah, that was kind of crazy.
It is kind of funny, and I just wonder, like, once my nephew hits 54 inches, am I going to lose that knowledge? When both my niece and nephew can just ride any coaster they want to, like, I'm not going to care as much. But yeah, it is funny how I can tell you a lot of height requirements for a lot of roller coasters.
Yeah. All right. Well, again, that is about it for this week's episode. Next week's weekly poll, we have kind of alluding to what we discussed this week, because we talked a lot about it, but we didn't really give you guys a chance to voice your thoughts and opinions on it. We didn't really ask. This wasn't a weekly poll previously. So we're going to ask it for this weekly poll. Do you think there's a difference between a rough coaster and a bad coaster? Or do you think that rough and bad go hand in hand? Let it, please. This is the only one really. Yes, I always ask for a description and why, but there's other ones where you don't really have to. Please go into as much detail, as much specific detail as possible in this response. Give us your full opinion and take on this, because this is important. We want to definitely comprehend where you're coming from. And as you just heard us talk for about 30 minutes, we can do some talking about this. So this is definitely a topic that requires a lot of, give some examples, give some, if you're in the counter argument against us saying that they do go hand in hand, give us some detail why. And we're never going to probably agree with you, but definitely maybe help us better understand where you're coming from with that.
Yeah, I mean, I know I certainly love to hear everybody's take on things.
Yeah, for sure.
I like to hear even opposing views and stuff like that. I think that's it's kind of important in everything, is to know the other viewpoint as well. And you might learn something.
Exactly.
I mean, that's how you learn, is talk.
And even if you don't admit it, even if we don't admit it, it might change our minds or our opinions. Because nobody ever straight out admits it. Even if you're in an argument, political, religious, any sports, if somebody proves you wrong, you never admit it. You're like, whatever. I don't know if I've ever really seen anybody go, yeah, you're right, and everything I just said was wrong, unless it's like they actually made a mistake. But if you're in an argument and you truly believe this, no one's ever going to truly admit it, but we might take away from it and actually start contemplating and start thinking about what you said, and then it might actually become something that we truly do believe is right or true.
Yeah.
All right, well, that is about it for this week's episode. We went pretty dang long, but hopefully you stick with us and you enjoyed every second of it, because I know I did, actually. This is one episode where sometimes at the end of the episodes, me and Bob are kind of mentally drained, and we're like, all right, I'm done with this episode. Let's get on with it. But I was having a good time having some discussion there.
Yeah, it's actually been a while since we did one of those, just talk about whatever.
I know. It was nice. All right, so yeah, that's it for episode number 94. That means that it's pretty much the end of my birthday, because if this was released on the 18th, you'll probably listen to it. It's over. My birthday's done. You just listen to the whole day, because that was a long episode. But make sure to check us out on our website, KosherTalkPodcast.com. You can answer the weekly poll by going to KosherTalkPodcast.com/poll, or you can contact us. Again, contact us. We want to hear your responses, and we want to hear your thoughts, and we want to hear your opinions and all of that. So do that by KosherTalkPodcast.com. You can also leave an audio with the show. So if you're at the park and you want to do a little trip report from the park, or do a little segment from the park, that'll be something cool, especially if it's a new ride or new attraction or anything. Or if you want to send us in your audio file of you explaining why we're wrong about the wooden coasters or the roughness of coasters in general, let us know. Definitely, that'll be a good way to explain yourself. But you can also do that and answer the poll again by going to KosherTalkPodcast/poll. Twitter, follow us at KosherTalk_pod, or Bob's Twitter account at KosherTalkBob. Facebook, you can follow us at KosherTalkPod. Instagram is at KosherTalkPod. Go to the YouTube channel and subscribe to us. That's Kosher Talk Podcast. And then again, email james@koshertalkpodcast.com or bob@koshertalkpodcast.com with any comments, questions, or concerns that you have with us. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode's. Wow. I messed up so many times there. I just keep going with it.
I'm just going to let you.
I just keep going.
I'm just going to let you finish out the.
This episode's. Wow. I messed up so many times there.
Does that work?
Yeah. With us. Podcast.com with any comments, questions, or concerns that you have with us. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Kosher Talk Podcast. We'll see you guys all on next week's show. Podcast. We'll see you guys all on next week's show. Did we do it?
We did. Is anybody
finish?
still alive in the chat? We lost people. I know Pam went to bed.
See, the Kosher About Rambles podcast. I love Harry, but I feel like he's made to facilitate factual information. His voice, how he talks, his speech pattern, his podcast just doesn't. Like when I do informational videos, I feel like, oh, I'm not really made for that. Like I don't feel like when I try to do
Yeah.
informational videos, I'm like, this ride is 200 feet tall. Oh, it's like, oh, like no, I'm supposed to give like my like that's not how it works. Like when I do reviews of rides, I try to briefly talk about the stats and then move on. But Harry is made to be like, this ride opened in 2015 and it was $400 million or whatever, you know, and do all that stuff. But when he does a podcast, it's I just don't know. I don't know.
I don't know. I haven't listened to it, so I can't say. I just know I love his videos. His
Oh, I
videos
love
are
his
awesome. I
videos,
even like.
and I had him on
I
a
make.
podcast. So, I mean, I don't think I don't think it's bad for. I'm not gonna say don't listen to it at all because I think it's definitely well produced and stuff. But it's just not. I don't really listen to many coaster podcasts to be honest. I don't even coaster radio. I love, and I don't listen to them as much as I probably should. You know, because I want to support them, but I just don't have the time. I
That's why
literally
you
I will listen to our
get a
show
job an hour away from your house.
as much as I hate our show. I mean, as much as I hate listening to our show because I don't like listening to my own voice.
I hate our show too.
Hey! You want to know what's really cool, Bob? You want to know what's really really cool? I looked up on
What?
Google. I looked up on Google coaster podcasts, and I guess they have like this isn't like based on my recent searches or anything because sometimes Google will do that and it'll just show you because I looked at Coaster Talk a lot. It'll show you Coaster Talk. It actually has like a list of like you know if you look up like best movies. I looked up Coaster Podcast and the first podcast is Coaster Talk Podcast. Like there's like a list of different coaster podcasts and Coaster Talk Podcast is at the top of the list. So that was pretty cool.
Interesting.
Do you see that?
Actually, holy crap!
Yeah. Do you see that?
On DuckDuckGo, I searched for coaster podcasts, which definitely is not related to anything because it's isolated.
Yeah.
And for yeah, I don't know why. There is a podcast called The Coaster, which is
Yeah.
a Catholic podcast.
Yeah. I've seen that before. Yeah.
Then there's just a player.fm for podcasts. And then there's Coaster Radio. And then the very next result is actually the tunein.com link for Coaster Talk Podcast. Then there's a Coaster 101 link. And then right below that is the actual Coaster Talk Podcast website. So, yeah, interesting. And then that is followed by a couple.
We're on the Player FM did like Player FM does like a list that they publish about the best roller coaster podcasts, and we're on that list.
Nice.
And then, but look on Google itself, when you look it up, it says like I can't. This isn't like my recent searches either. Like sometimes it'll do that. Do you see that?
Well, it doesn't. Google tracks everything, so it's hard to say. But yes, I see that.
This is just like the thing. Look up like best movies, and like a list of best of movies that are recognized a lot will come up, and that's like basically what this is the same type of list. This isn't just like you've looked at Coaster Talk podcast a lot, so we'll show you that one.
Well, I mean, Google tracks that. DuckDuckGo doesn't, so that's what I'm saying. It's very impressive. If you search for Coaster Podcast on DuckDuckGo, we are, as far as the actual podcast, we are the second podcast result under Coaster Radio.
Which is cool. On actual Google too, it's like there's that list of like different Coaster Talk, and I know this isn't like my list fabricated because it literally has Coaster Bot Rambles and it has all these different podcasts. Like I haven't even listened to half of these podcasts before, so this isn't a list that's like just for me or anything because these are podcasts I've never listened to before.
There is the Roller Coaster Podcast,
but then it goes Coaster Radio, and then right after that there's a Coaster Talk Podcast link for the Stitcher.
and I don't even think it's about roller coasters. Nope, it isn't. The rollercoasterpodcast.com. It is not a roller coaster podcast. It's I don't know what it is. That's interesting.
Yeah, I'm on DuckDuckGo now, and it
Yeah.
says it goes. I mean, this isn't as cool, but it goes the Coaster Podcast, Coaster Radio, and then the Coaster Podcast again, and then Coaster Talk Podcast, and then our YouTube channel and our website are both linked. That's pretty cool, I have to admit. All right, well,
Yes.
I don't know why we're doing this on the stream. We're like bragging about how cool we are.
I don't know. We're not cool.
We're the coolest kids in school, though. All right, we'll see you guys
We
next
suck.
week. See you guys. Bye.
See you guys.